All right. Hello. Welcome to Mom Games Badly. There are plenty of moms out there who are fantastic video gamers. I am not one of them, but I still enjoy playing. I hope you'll enjoy hanging out with me while I play. This is Our Life, Beginnings and Always. And I just put on, it's hot today. It's hot and very humid where I am. So I put on my tank top for today, and I'm like, my hair is a disaster. I'm just gonna throw some spray in it and brush it up and put my usual 5-minute makeup on, and like concealer and my eyeliner and my lipstick, and I powder, and I look in the marinated in it for like 15 minutes while I did other stuff, and then I went to the restroom and I looked in the bathroom mirror while I was washing my hands. I was like, oh, I'm hot. Look at that. Totally by accident. So, appropriate. We have hit the point in the game where we're going to be, I think, 18. And things are going to be interesting. So yeah, this is where I left it. So we were deciding on feelings, I believe. I think. Hold on. Let me double check to make sure there isn't another game file. Yeah. Okay, that's the most recent. Yep. Okay, so we're direct with Cove. And I think we should proceed from fond to crush. Don't you? Yes, I think so. All right. Are we ready? Off we go. Begin step 3 at direct crush. Yes. Or should we do relaxed crush? Would relaxed be better? Huh. I like the facial expression change. Yeah, like here's fond, crush, you get the blush. All right, so do we do relaxed or direct? Direct is like, hey. Just relaxed, be like, yeah, I have feelings for you. It's fine. Maybe we should go with relaxed. If we're upping it to crush, maybe we should go with relaxed. Comfort, direct. Like, I don't understand how direct is a comfort. I guess comfortable being direct with them? Should have thought this through before I started. All right, I'm probably being really loud because the game turned way up in my ears. Okay. So, we can be direct next step. Let's go with relaxed crush. Ready? Yes. Cove customization. Oh, right. Should we just let Cove customize themselves naturally? Or do we want to have some influence on that? We should just let them be who they're gonna be. Since you're romantically interested in Cove and are old enough to start being physically affectionate more seriously, you can choose what initiative level he has throughout this step. Okay. Making sure the player experiences what they want is important in Our Life. but always putting your choice first can potentially make a relationship feel one-sided. We added some flexibility in how it works out. Low initiative means that Cove will occasionally ask to touch the MC, and in main character, I assume, and in those situations, there will always be an opportunity to say yes or no. For example, he won't simply lean over and kiss the MC as a greeting, or in an emotional moment. Every piece of physical interaction will either be initiated or approved by the player before it happens. Middle initiative means there will be those certain times when Cove requests to touch the MC, many chances to initiate affection on your own, and also he will pretty regularly give affection automatically. One example would be giving the MC a kiss because he's happy or emotional or something else. And in other situations, you can choose not to make the first move in order to give Cove space to be the one to act afterwards. Overall, the love interest can get romantic, but the player's agency will take priority. High initiative includes everything middle does, but also means that player agency will be reduced to a degree in favor of having Cove give physical affection even more frequently and with less prompting. Instead of all the major affection-giving situations being led by a choice menu for you to decide on, some will instead be replaced by Cove acting automatically. This level is only recommended if you're very comfortable with physical affection and would prefer to simply see it happen rather than always holding the reins on it. However, this level is mostly relevant if Cove ends up as your official boyfriend at some point. Situations where high-level initiative makes a difference tend to come up in scenes that are exclusive to being in a relationship. The parts that are also included in the middle initiative, which will be seen whether you're dating or not. Once you pick your level, it can't be changed partway through a step. The choice only comes up at the very beginning of a story section. We hope you'll enjoy whichever initiative option you decide on. Alright, which initiative level would you like Cove to have for step 3? Okay, I like this. At first I was like, that's a lot to work through, but I like that they are trying to make sure that everyone who plays is as comfortable as possible. And some people are more shy. Some people have had bad experiences and really want to have more control over things. I understand, and I applaud them for making the game this flexible. But I am comfortable with more of a give and take. I am comfortable with more spontaneity. In real life situations, I am more comfortable with, my partner and I reading one another's body language correctly. And thus certain, physical actions are more generally welcome, more of a blanket welcome, more of a blanket not welcome. And I'm very fortunate that I have a very responsive partner who reads signals well and does not freak out if, I'm uncomfortable with something and say, hey, I don't love that. Can we do something else? And be like, oh, sure. Okay, great, fine. That is very nice. It's a good kind of partner to have. That's the kind of partner you want, is someone who doesn't take it personally when you're just not in the mood for certain things, So, I'm going to go with middle. So I guess officially we're starting this at 13 and then we're going to move forward. The start of classes ended the relaxed, free days of summer. It didn't take long for you to get back into the swing of the school year routine. Schedules and homework became the new normal. Derek wasn't around nearly as much. With school and after-school activities, there weren't many opportunities for him to take the trip out to your neighborhood. Sometimes you'd hear that he was at a training camp or something like that, but you weren't always sure what he was up to. But you still kept in touch over the phone as best you could. You kind of lost contact as time went on. Derek was a good friend. I think we should keep in touch. I don't miss Shiloh. that much. But, Derek was a good kid. The Jeremy kid did disappear after that summer, and no one ever heard from him again. Where he went or what he might be up to was a mystery. I wonder if they change that depending on how you react to Jeremy. Like, does Jeremy come back in this next part if you gave him a lot more leniency? Anyway, all right. More summers came and went. Here we go. Time is passing. More summers came and went, like the waves on the shore coming in and out. In your second year of high school, someone new started to visit Sunset Bird. A sunny girl named Terry Brooke. She was a friend Cove made due to them both being ocean obsessed. Terry was more than glad to befriend you, too. Someone close to Cove had to be good company, she felt. You were pleased to get along with her as well. Terry was tight with another girl who you had known distantly from school for a long time, Miranda Eckert. You saw more and more of her as time went on, thanks to Terry and Miranda's own outreach. After a while, all of you developed a real friendship together. All right. So, second year of high school is like 15, 16 years old. All right. As for your home life, the Johnsons also had developments. Changing laws and public perception countrywide made it possible for your moms to openly wear their wedding rings without questions. Oh, I'd assume they were doing that anyway. Don't we live in California? We were able to make a road trip to the Redwoods, Though they had a wedding years ago, it was only recently that the union was officially recognized everywhere in the U.S. It's 2008, 2010. That was a good day, to say the least. Elizabeth came into her own and stopped being quite as irritable. She no longer worried about perceived childishness as she grew up for real. She didn't even mind being called Lizzie again. Oh, I gotta zoom in a little bit here. There we go. She didn't even mind being called Lizzie again, although most people used Liz. She eventually graduated high school and moved out to attend college in another state. It was a lot for you to adjust to your older sister being gone. Liz never let you forget her role in your life, though, and kept in touch. Cove's relationships with his family improved over the years. Kyra visited several times after that summer, and things became easier between the two. He was also closer with his dad than ever before. You knew they talked more, and that helped prevent a lot of friction before it could start. All right, so are Kyra and Cove's dad, Cliff, are they, divorced? I don't think they ever said the word divorced in previous episodes. They were, I believe, legally separated, but then Kyra, the last part, Kyra stayed with them the whole summer. So it seemed like Clifford was trying to patch things up, maybe. So let's see. However, Cove grew into someone no one would call social. He kept to himself, usually. He cared for the few connections he did have, but didn't reach outside them. Cove's interests had shifted from when he was younger. He still enjoyed athletic activities on occasion, but now he gave time to more studious endeavors as well. Matured affection. Start playing step 3 using the crush or love affiliation. Things had shifted between you and Cove. You had been friends for years, but the closer you became, the more you felt for him. You didn't view him in a purely platonic way anymore. Okay, and yes, we concluded the last chapter establishing, at least at age 13, that our character was demisexual panromantic. So, but we're very close to Cove, so affection and attraction makes sense. It was strange to look back on it all. The future faded into your present, and then it was simply the past. Even the most fundamental parts of your life couldn't last forever. You felt that the most pointedly the day you inevitably graduated high school. It was over, and you would not be going back ever again. From now on, what came next was your choice. You would be directing your own life. Oh, all right, so we're 18 now. That was where you were currently. The summer after school had ended. The first summer of true freedom. What used to be a reprieve from the typical is now going to be your first step into adulthood. One fine summer morning, you took in what had become a very special scene. The whole family having a meal together. Your big sister Liz still hadn't lived at home full-time for a couple of years. But she arrived last week to spend the season here since it was an off semester for her. She wanted to make sure she was in town because you had now also graduated high school, so who knew how much rarer these moments would become in the future. You watched on as Liz laughed good-naturedly over a comment Ma made. Her Elizabeth-only mindset had only been a phase. Nearly any nickname was welcomed at this point in her life. Strangely, even though she'd moved away, you'd lately felt closer to her than you had in a long time. Sometimes it works like that. My oldest sister and I had to share a very small room, like 11 feet by 11 feet for like 14 years. And so, we were under each other's feet all the time, and it's hard to it's hard to hold boundaries. It's hard not to get irritated if you can never get away from each other. It's like as the saying goes, how can I miss you if you never go away? Kind of thing. And when she went away to college, that's kind of when we became friends. Strangely, even though she'd moved away, you'd lately felt closer to her than you had in a long time. You idly scooped up more of your breakfast and chewed absent-mindedly. You were a vegetarian. You were a vegan. You were a pescatarian. You were a politarian. You were a picky eater. You generally ate whatever. Okay, so politarian, I'm assuming, means that you eat fish and chicken, but you don't eat red meat, and maybe you don't eat pork. I don't know. I haven't heard that term before, but pollo, P-O-L-L-O, is Spanish for chicken, so I'm assuming that's one of the few, if not only, meats you eat. I'm just gonna go with what I was, which was a picky eater. And the meal you had reflected that. Your moms were happy to make food that fit your needs, along with dishes for themselves that didn't. Though you often made your own food nowadays. But it wasn't only you who had a diet that excluded certain things, as Liz had been vegetarian for a while. Conversation had gone on idly without you fully taking in the words, until your ears were piqued. Your ears were piqued when Ma started on a bit of town gossip. And so that's how I heard the news. All right, now stop burying the lead and tell us. What is this so-called news? Ma giggled as she cast a look across the table, satisfied that she had everyone's attention. Well, it turns out that Donnells won't be renting out the condo up the street as per Sunset Bird tradition for the first time in what must be nearly 2 decades. A chorus of gasps and shocked expressions were had all around. After the initial shock, your eyebrows pinched. Ma may consider them by name, but you and Liz always viewed them exclusively as the mean old couple who would yell at anyone under 25 who crossed their paths. Your ma continued on with the story, spreading strawberry jam over a piece of toast as she did so. They've decided not to take big trips anymore. Friends and family will be visiting them at their home. That's nice for them then. Have a good summer, mean grandparents with no grandkids, away from us. That's a relief. It's kind of sad they can't travel anymore. I hope they're still okay, even if they are mean. My thoughts exactly, Liz. Finally, they can piss off. You didn't have anything to comment on that development. I mean, I hope they're still okay, even if they're mean. They've had a very full life. It's nothing to sneeze at. And you be nice, Liz. You don't want to end up like them, do you? You and your sister cracked smiles at the joke. Well, at least they won't be there to yell at my children anymore.
Lonnie.
Pfft, Lonnie. And that blunt comment got laughter from all three of you. Engrossed in conversation once more, you continued to chat with your family until the meal was over. Step 3. Third time's charm. As it went, once the food was eaten, the cleanup had to be done. Liz took the role of washing the dishes and passed them to you for drying and putting away. You had a set of cups in front of you that needed to go on the top shelf of the cabinet. It was effortless to do. You were very tall. The task was pretty straightforward for you. You were tall. You had to stretch, but it was doable. You were an average height. It was a struggle to get them up without a stepping stool. You were short. A stepping stool was mandatory for you. You were very short. I mean, that was simply your lot in life. You'd always been vertically challenged. This is true. You felt great about how things were. You hoped you might still grow more. You wished you had stopped growing earlier. You didn't think about it much. You didn't even know what to think about it. I don't think about it much. That part of yourself was never something you could really figure out your thoughts on. Liz shook you out of your internal musing by starting up an impromptu conversation. She seemed to be voicing the thoughts that had been buzzing around in her own head. I have to say, going back for another semester this fall is pretty intimidating. You'd think after the first year or two I'd have a handle on things, but no. You stole a glance at her, still placing cups in the proper place. I guess it's only fair. My first round was pretty general classes, and year 1 of my architecture major was the basics. Now it feels serious. I have to actually know some things. The laugh she gave was flippantly airy. The way she scrubbed at the plates held more force than necessary. I know you can handle it. I think it's really cool you want to be an architect. That does sound hard. You simply shrugged. You merely listened to her venting. Torn between, I think it's really cool you want to be an architect, and you listening to her venting. And then, of course, there's just the sympathetic, that does sound hard. Let's just let her vent. There wasn't much you could add to it. Your older sister's mouth quirked into a small smile. It'll be fine, one way or another. Oh, but I'm not trying to scare you away from college, if that's even your plan. What is going on with that anyway? You've had a solid plan set for a long time. You came to a firm conclusion recently. You had kind of a general idea. You had absolutely no idea. You hadn't even let yourself think about it. It was too much. Ooh. I mean, personally, I never questioned that after high school I would go to college. Like that, it never entered my mind to plan for anything else or not plan for that at all. It looks like, judging from the condo here, that there are monetary options available. Whereas I had to go to the college that gave me the most financial aid. That was it. I've had a solid plan for a long time. You answered the question as much as you were able and willing to. Liz's smile grew more reassuring as you did. You made it through 12 years of full-time education already. You can make your ideas happen, I'm sure. Sometimes it still felt hard to believe your public schooling experience was over. In the end, you had graduated at the top of your class. You soared through with high marks. You had to work extremely hard, but were rewarded with great grades. You had been an average graduate. You struggled to reach the benchmarks, but made it. You didn't try hard, but made it regardless. I don't know. I was like in between the like at the 75% mark. Like there were a quarter of my graduating class did better than I did, ranked higher than I did. So I wouldn't say soared through, certainly. There were places where I had to work extremely hard. I had very good grades in some places and not very good grades in other places, so I guess average. And you were going to miss it. You felt satisfied leaving off there. Wished it could have gone better. You were just glad it was truly behind you. I guess wish I could have gone better. Even though it wasn't anything necessarily bad, you couldn't help feel disappointed it wasn't especially good either. Liz picked up on the silence her question ended up creating. She decided it was time to make a closing statement on the topic.
You're a good kid.
You're a good kid, Jamie. Do what's best for you, and we'll be here to back it up. Thanks, Liz. At that, Liz happily passed the final dish your way. She waved a soapy, soaked hand as a farewell and moved on to her next task for the cleanup job. You refocused on getting the last pieces put back where they belonged. You eventually moved on to a new chore, but that was interrupted by the sound of your cell phone. It was the phone's default ringtone. You had used a silly novelty song as the ringtone. You'd set one of your most beloved songs as your ringtone. The phone was set to just vibrate. I'm the silly novelty. The novelty ringtone. I'm that person. You casually, not, redonkulous. It's not like a rooster crowing when my phone goes off, but I picked part of a song from RRR is my current ringtone. I have Dosti, the opening to Dosti as my ringtone. So, it's unusual for where I live. I like to have a ringtone that's distinctive enough where it's like, oh, that's my phone ringing. There's never any confusion about whose it is. You casually picked it up from the table where you had placed it earlier. The phone was a couple of years old at this point, having been a 16th birthday gift from your parents. They decided which model to get, but you got to pick the color. It was... where's purple? Purple? Purple. And it was just a phone. You didn't do anything to decorate it. And it had a special charm attached to it. I like a nice case, but I don't need a lot of futziness. You didn't do anything to decorate it. The screen lit up as you gave the little device a swipe with one finger. You were informed by caller ID that it was Lee. You weren't surprised. Oh, our cousin. Okay. Despite having busier and busier lives and not living in the same town, you still had a good relationship with your cousin of the same age. Especially once the miracle of the both of you having your own phones actually happened. She got hers first, though. Tapping at the accept button, you answered her call. A familiar, bubbly voice came through right after. Okay, this is a minor issue I have with the writing in this. Is you can just say, you answered her call. You don't, tapping at the accept button, what does this... What is that conveying? What does that add to the narrative? You know? I don't know. That's just me. Tapping at the accept button, you answered her call. A familiar, bubbly voice came through right after. I mean, to be clear, I think the writing is very good. It's very good. It's very flexible. It is sensitively written. It's well written, you know, it's grammatically. It's well written. It's good story. I like how the story progresses. It's just here and there, you know. It's a little more than I prefer. Hey, Jamie. Oh, it's pinky purple. I wanted a blue or purple. Boo. Hey, Jamie. Hiya. I trust I'm not interrupting anything major? Only some cleaning around the house. Oh, then you're welcome for my call. A distraction from that must have been desperately needed. Yes, thank you, my dear cousin. Hey, I love doing chores, you joked. I like cleaning, you protested earnestly. It's good to hear from you. Even though she couldn't see it, you shook your head at that. Yes, thank you, my dear cousin.
My pleasure.
It's my pleasure. She giggled, and you could hear the jangling of the jewelry she must be wearing. Nothing amazing is happening for me either. I'm bored and felt like chatting. My morning shift ended, so I'm free for the rest of the day. Woo! That's good. You were off from your part-time job today. You hadn't started working anywhere yet, so you couldn't relate. Let's have a part-time job. Like you, Lee had started dipping her toes into the workforce as of late. It made keeping in touch frequently even more complicated, but you both managed. What about you? It's been pretty normal. Cool. That's you then. So, how's Mr. Cove Holden doing? There was a teasing bent to her tone. She was never willing to let up on what was going on between the two of you. But that name was incredibly familiar to your ears. Cove, your next-door neighbor for the past decade at this point. The two of you were close. That was all you could think on it. He was your best friend. At least, you hadn't admitted you felt more than that just yet. He was an important friend, but you secretly hoped he'd tell you he felt more than that. He was someone you had affection for, but you didn't want to take the relationship further. But he was far more than just someone who lived on the same street. He was your boyfriend. It's interesting that you can just choose that, and that it's not something you can try for or not try for. You can just make that happen. And I'm not sure what that was all you could think on it meant. Like you were close and you hadn't really closely examined your feelings about it. Your best friend, you hadn't admitted you felt more than that just yet. Important friend, you secretly hoped he'd tell you he felt more than that. What makes for a more interesting story? You hadn't admitted you felt more than that just yet. Is it you haven't admitted it to yourself, or you haven't admitted it to anyone else? Oh, let's make it ambiguous. What you had was special, whatever it was. Are you even surviving without the boy being 10 feet away at all times? Or is everything right with the world again and he's back? No, Lee, he isn't here, just like he wasn't here yesterday, or the last time you asked, or the time before that.
Sorry.
Aw, my bad. Can you blame me? Doesn't it seem like he should have made his grand return already? Plus, I want to visit soon, and he needs to be there too. You could understand where she was coming from. This was certainly outside the norm. For the past couple months, and the last few weeks especially, Cove had been going to his mom's place in Nevada. The two of you still regularly stayed in contact over text and calls, but still, your mind began to drift back in time to all the prior trips he'd taken to visit her. Almost every year he'd have to go away for a while and then he'd be back. It made you sad and lonely when it happened. You never minded it. It was kind of nice to have breaks away from each other. You weren't a fan, but made do. It was just shitty. It upset you. Your younger self worried about him leaving for good. I think, honestly, the healthiest might be one of these two. You know, nice to have breaks away from each other. Not a fan, but made do. I'd probably say that. You sent him letters the entire time he was away. Your moms helped you ship out care packages to him and his mom. You gave him special treasures to take with him before he left. You kept an eye on his house for him while he wasn't there. You were incapable of doing anything until he was back. Oh, that's not healthy at all. Care packages? He'd stand with his mother. He doesn't need care packages. Special treasures, maybe. Keep an eye on the house. I mean, does he still have fish? What about his dad, though? What's his dad doing? Does he need someone to keep an eye on the house? Is Cliff away? I guess keep an eye on the house. It felt like the least you could do when you were younger, and nothing ended up happening, so maybe it worked. He sent you letters while there in return. That's how it was in the past, but lately he had been trying to see her as much as he could before taking long trips to another state became too impractical to do. His part-time work could become full-time soon, or he could be moving somewhere else for school. Cove hadn't actually been entirely clear what his plans were after graduation. Cove was hesitant to speak on that, even with you. It couldn't be avoided forever, though. You both knew that.
Well,
Maybe we should switch this up to a non-Cove related topic? Sounds like a plan. The rest of the conversation rolled on. Not much longer, though. Lee had to go, and you needed to finish your responsibilities around the house. The both of you exchanged goodbyes, then you went back to what you'd been working on before the call came in. All right, let's save here. We haven't saved this configuration yet. Wow, how many saves can you have? 6 per page. There's more than 20 pages of saves available. Okay. Next. As you wrapped up the last of your chores, you were approached by Liz wearing a cheeky smile. All right, are you going to a wedding or are you auditioning for the Stepford Wives? What is this outfit? I've got Mom's keys. Want to get out of this tiny town and do some shopping in a real city? That sounds great.
good.
Good. I'm driving. That was obvious. You didn't know how to drive. You were glad for that. You still just had a learner's permit. Even though you could drive too, it was her plan. She could do it if she wanted. It was nice of her to do that. You had a license, but tried to avoid driving when possible. I knew how to drive at 18. I had my license by then. Go get your wallet and anything else. We're going now. With a nod, you made a quick detour to collect your stuff from your bedroom. You had money saved up from all the part-time work you'd done, as well as from gifts you'd received. After making sure you both were fully prepared for the long haul to the largest city in the surrounding area, you buckled into the car. It was a smooth ride there, with light conversation about what shops to stop at and the radio blasting. Liz controlled what was played, but she made sure to pick songs she knew you liked. It was something the two of you had always done for each other. Oh, that's nice to have a callback to that. So we had a moment like that in the in a previous chapter where we were allowed to pick the music, but we picked something that we knew Elizabeth would like. And I had options to do otherwise. The trip there breezed by, and in what felt like no time, you had gone from cruising down the road to cruising through the mall. Liz had her interests to check out, and you yours. Oh, we're not sticking together? Your hobbies and skills were still the ones you developed when you were younger. You had gotten into new things since you'd grown up. Oh, okay. I mean, my hobbies and skills were like marine biology and art. Have we gotten into new things? Go with it. When turning a corner down a new length of the mall, your eyes caught on a little gift store. You and your friends and family had recently given you. Let's try that again. Your friends and family had recently given you many presents for graduating high school. You realized you wanted to get a graduation gift yourself to give to Cove. You had a gift of your own ready to give to Cove when the chance came. You really appreciated what you had gotten. Oh, it's like Booktacular or something here. Want to get a graduation gift for Cove, or we already have a gift for Cove. Appreciated what you'd gotten. I mean, you really appreciated what you had gotten. It was thoughtful of them. Eventually, the mall was explored in full, with every shop of note being checked over. Rather than going home, you decided to walk over to some smaller stores nearby. Liz had many thoughts on that topic.
So?
Honestly, malls are not a bastion of society. Even if smaller stores require extra distance, the brands are so much more. Then your sister abruptly stopped speaking and walking, right in the middle of the path. It was a good thing no one was behind her. She seemed to entirely shut off for a moment. Liz? The attempt to catch her attention was unsuccessful. Something else had all her focus. Before you could puzzle out what might be happening, she began to mumble out of the corner of her mouth. Jamie, don't draw attention, but look. What? With a harsh whisper and a subtle jerk of her head, she urged you once more.
Hey.
Look! You followed her gaze as best you could to a large bunch of colorful teens strolling down the same path. Okay. You faced back over to your sister with a confused expression and an unspoken question. What were you supposed to be seeing here? Jamie, doesn't one of them seem familiar? She was practically bouncing at this point, so you looked the group over again, and this time you saw what she was seeing. Amongst the collection of strangers was a brown-haired, gray eyes, lots and lots of freckles. Oh, it's Shiloh! That's Shiloh, our Shiloh, from when we were kids. Yep, that was definitely him. I recognized him. I can't believe it. He's honestly just there. That's hilarious. That's incredible. Oh, but how do we talk to him? We'd have to pull him away from all those other people, and what if I'm wrong? Your mouth opened to reply, but she cut it off with her own answer to the question. I've got it. I'll shout the name Shiloh, and then we can act like it wasn't us. If he responds to it, we'll know without a doubt it's him. Jamie, keep an eye out to see if he looks. Liz, can't you just try talking to him normally? You're not doing that. It's a terrible plan. Why do I have to be the one who watches? Let's try it. Fine. You didn't even know how to react. Yeah, all right. Likely without even hearing what you had to say, Liz put her plan into action. Shiloh! She loudly projected the word across the way and then put on an act of casualness, turning her head away from the scene while brushing at the skirt of her dress. In a supremely awkward moment, you could only stand there as attention in the area shifted to the two of you thanks to your sister's shout. But many of the startled bystanders who became alerted to your presence, of the many startled bystanders, one of them was the boy. From a distance, his large eyes met yours. He looked. A wide grin took over Liz's face. She pushed the rim of her sun hat up and away from her face while swishing back around to greet her old friend directly. Shiloh! Waving, she stepped a bit closer to express her intention to meet without really closing the gap. She wanted him to come to her. Who you presumed to be Shiloh looked surprised at the call-out. He stole a quick glance at the crowd he was with and hesitantly glanced back your way. He was trying to double-check something. Liz remained steadfast with her gaze trained on him, and ultimately he broke away from the rest of them. After a light-footed jog across the brick path, the young man pleasantly presented himself in front of Liz and you.
Hi.
Hi! I like your hat. Just that simple greeting had Liz giggling.
Hey.
Hello! Not sure if you remember this, but I'm Lizzie, and that's Jamie. We were all friends when we were little kids. His already wide eyes grew even larger, their gaze darting between you and Liz. His previously chipper demeanor faded into something delicate. I'm Shiloh. I'm really sorry, but I think you have the wrong person. You could tell not being instantly recognized was going to make this exchange more of a challenge. Still, Liz was undeterred. It was a long time ago, you were really young. I get why you feel like that. However, I'm positive I'm right. You're exactly the same. That face, the freckles, how genially you try to phrase things. You're even still wearing a hat. Instinctively, he looked up at his headwear with creased brows, not making the connection on why the hat meant something to her.
Okay.
We knew each other, okay? An uneasy smile settled on him as a silence followed Liz's speech. He was picking his next words carefully. And then the quiet was obliterated by a new voice bursting into the conversation. Shiloh, what are you doing? The rest of the group already left. A field trip is not a vacation. We are on a schedule. Startled, your head snapped toward the path. A distinctly unhappy individual with piercing magenta eyes, magenta? Dark brown skin and a sharp jaw stormed your way. He carried a cloud of authority with him, despite looking like he wasn't even 18 yet. Sorry, I didn't mean to ditch. Shiloh, whose name was now officially confirmed, gestured with a hand to add the explanation of his absence as the stranger watched impatiently. They thought they recognized me as someone they knew, but it was a tiny misunderstanding. Liz theoretically as well as literally put her foot down at that, stomping in frustration and getting more childish the longer she was around her childhood companion.
Come on.
We do know you. Shiloh merely shrunk in on himself. The tone he spoke with was pained. Sorry. Honestly couldn't tell if he was apologizing for the upset feelings of your sister or the palpable dissatisfaction of his new acquaintance. That in itself was very Shiloh-like. Oh, you know him, is that it? The stranger spoke in a dismissively scoffing tone, as if the words sounded so absurd to him it was almost amusing. Almost. But the sternness of his demeanor quickly reinstated itself. Well, do you know me? I'll tell you, I'm someone who has been forced against his will to be aware of what's going on in Shiloh's ridiculous personal life for a year. If the two of you had any importance in his general day-to-day existence, it would have come up by now. Don't bother trying to exaggerate any trivial connection you might have. It's not good enough. He's with us, and you'll survive without him. Now stop loitering in the road. It's rude.
Excuse me?
Excuse me? We're the rude ones? The high-strung ranting got an audible gasp from Shiloh, who finally started to speak up again in defense. Nate, that's really mean. It's also true. We're leaving. With that declaration, the unofficially introduced Nate indignantly spun on his heels and walked speedily toward where the group went, completely confident that Shiloh would follow behind. People can sure have bad attitudes, huh? Why can't they just try to get along? It's not hard. Don't worry, though. I bet you won't have to deal with him again. And I'm sorry I can't stay to talk to you, but I hope you have a really nice life.
Bye.
Bye! I'm in a badly controlling relationship. Please rescue me. And that was it. His final parting words given, Shiloh left the two of you behind to catch up with his own life that he had to go live. Liz watched his exit, stunned, only to frown when it hit her that he was really gone as quickly as he had appeared. It happened so fast you hadn't even been able to get a word in. She sighed, all the energy she built up releasing with the breath. I could have told him his last name was Fields, his birthday is October 30th. That would have proved it, but no. I'm sorry, Liz. Wow, Shiloh grew up to be dumb. You were left feeling equally deflated. Whoever Nate is, he sucks. Well, damn. You couldn't help but laugh. No, whoever Nate is, he sucks. He was so unnecessarily unpleasant when all you wanted was to talk to someone for a moment. Do you want to go catch up with him? Liz merely shook her head, pushing off childish thoughts. I think we can leave it here, thanks. He's in the middle of a high school field trip, and it was already enough being able to see him. There's something reassuring about witnessing firsthand that he's still out there, enjoying his own part of the world. Though if given the chance, I could definitely have a few words with him about the company he's got. She laughed, but you could tell there wasn't much humor to it. She was mad at that guy, even if she was happy to let Shiloh go. Maybe they're only with each other because of the trip, and it's not usually how things are.
Right?
True. We can only hope the same for him as he did for us. Have a nice life, Shiloh. That's true. Maybe they were assigned buddies on the field trip. Have a good life. Bye, Shiloh. We'll miss you. Good luck out there. You'll need it. You didn't have anything left to say. Good luck out there. You'll need it. Liz smiled at you. It had the self-confidence you knew so well from her. Come on, kid. Let's finish our own trip. Yeah. No matter how either of you really felt about the occurrence, it was something you simply had to accept. People you know just disappear and reappear in the most unexpected ways. The two of you enjoyed what remained of your outing until it was time to return home. By the time you arrived back, the sun was already beginning to set. You arched your back as you stretched your arms toward the ceiling. While it had been a good day, it had enough activity to cover an entire week. Liz tried to hide a yawn behind her hands. You weren't the only one feeling worn out. I'll be heading up to your room. The guest room, since mine stopped being available as soon as I was out the door. Her tone was light. had quite a lot to say on the subject when you'd first taken over her bigger room after she left for college. There have been many trips back home for her since then. Well, I'll have to wait and catch it on at another time. The room hasn't been hers for years. It was more of a running joke now that she continued to bring the topic up to this day. Let it go, Liz. I didn't see your name on it. Thank you, Liz. It's a really nice room. Thanks for being so gracious about giving it up. Just wanted to follow in my big sister's shoes. I'm sorry. Thanks for being so gracious about giving it up. I had no choice. A small laugh was shared between you and your older sister. You better believe you'll be back in the guest room when you've got your own place and we're both in town for a visit. We can take turns. You'll have Thanksgiving, I'll get Christmas. Sure. Don't count on it. That's all right with me. I don't need it. We can take turns. What a reasonable and mature suggestion. I'll think about accepting it. She flashed her familiar grin, and you couldn't help but feel glad she was back around, even if it was temporary. With that, she plodded off to the spare room. You were ready to do the same. Moving into a new space was your first opportunity. There we go. Let's do that. There we go. All right. Moving into a new space was your first opportunity to decorate from scratch. Design your room. Excellent. All right. Layout, extras, window, walls, floor, blue, green. This is green? Purple, yellow, blue. Oh, I see. It's accents mostly. The purple's very like pinky. Let's go with the green. Like the sort of aqua look to it. Layout. Oh, all right. Extra window. Oh, I see. We can cycle through. So we can do plants and plants and more plants. Like lots of plants and some plants and some plants. Not the stuffies, I don't think. Read that, though. The books. Lots of books. Can we change through the layout? Nope. Okay. You can I assume if you have the DLC, you can customize a little bit more. Walls left. Sort of like nature photos. And then I'm not sure what these are. Makes sense to have a corkboard near the desk. But it also makes sense to have the shark poster. Let's go with that for the moment. Back. Oh, my goodness. Oh. I like this. I like the sea lion. Okay. Right? Ooh. Constellation poster? Yes, please. Lights. Why does some of this take away from others? Like I can have the lights or I can have the back. Floor. Left. No. Middle. Right. on. You were really satisfied with the feel of your tiny part of the world. As your thoughts drifted, you tried to bite down on another yawn. It was no good. Your bed was now lodged in your mind, and all you could think about was collapsing on it. You trudged up the stairs to your room. No, go brush your teeth first. Go brush your teeth first. Then you can collapse all you want. Stepping inside, you closed the door behind you, blocking the rest of the house. When you turned back around, you realized you were not alone there. Comfortably perched on the windowsill was someone very familiar to you. Oh, I just realized, I'm like, why is my lighting so bad? It's because I did not turn on the correct lights here. Hold on a second. Cove Holden. The shock knocked all words out of you. Huh? How are you here? How are you here? Surprise? His tone was easy and relaxed. It certainly was a surprise. You hadn't expected him to be within the state, never mind your house. He hadn't answered how he had suddenly just appeared back in Sunset Bird, though to be fair, you had been so astounded there hadn't been much of an opportunity for him to chat with you. Thankfully, Cove was only waiting for a good moment to start and began to explain. So, I got in about 15 minutes ago. No one was home, so I figured I'd come in the usual way. The window. A small smile had formed on his face. You were still staring at him, unable to blink in case he disappeared. You could still barely believe that he was really there, mere feet away from you. I left my bags in your backyard. I hope that's all right. That was when you truly understood. Cove had come straight to you upon getting back to town. You were his first port of call, taking precedence over all else. Even though you hadn't been in when he called, Cove had ensured that he'd see you at the earliest opportunity, rather than allowing his plans to change. You laughed. The realization made you bashful. You shook your head at his antics. You stayed frozen, the shock yet to melt away. You walked over to join him. You ran to Cove. He was here, and it was exactly where he wanted to be. There was no need to hesitate in enjoying his presence. As you approached, Cove quickly hopped from the windowsill to meet you. You're too crazy. I'm so glad you're here. I missed you. Trouble's back in town. I can't believe my eyes. It's the most amazing man in the world. You didn't need to say anything. I think I missed you is fine. You ruffled his hair. You jovially I can't talk. What happened? You jovially punched him on the arm. You wrapped him in a gentle embrace. You pulled him into a bone-crushing hug. You jumped into his arms. You smiled at him. Hug? How about a nice hug? Gentle hug. Cove sighed contentedly, melting into the hug. He wrapped his own arms around your back in return. He moved to wrap his arms around your shoulders, and he tucked his head into your neck. His breath was warm against your skin. I missed you too. Even if he hadn't said it outright, you would have gotten the message from his body language. Cove was grinning widely, his raised cheeks burying his eyes, which gleamed like hidden gems. But he looked at you as if you were the most exciting treasure of all. How's the trip? Yeah. Cove told you about how his trip back had gone. His mom was doing really well. She had a project in the works that she was thrilled about. As a result, Cove was going to be sticking around in Sunset Bird for the time being. Things were settled, as much as they ever could be. With Cove back once more, you felt at ease. Cove stretched his arms out over his head, his eyes on the window and the world beyond. The sun had set while you'd been busy reuniting.
Well,
I should probably get my stuff and see Dad. He glanced over to you with a familiar, expectant look. Want to come with me? You know I do. No, but I'll walk you downstairs. Sure, I can go over for a little while.
Cool.
Cool. Cove began to head to your bedroom door. You followed after him. You insisted on a piggyback ride. Let's not overdo it. At least not potentially in front of my parents. The two of you casually went down to the ground floor of your house. Cove's surprise arrival had wiped your earlier discovery from your mind. Now that you'd had a chance to recover, you figured you'd tell Cove the intriguing news. I meant to tell you earlier. I saw Shiloh today.
Huh?
Shiloh? Cove repeated the name, his expression blank. Shiloh. From when we were kids? Cove pondered for a moment, then snapped his fingers. Oh, he was the freckly boy from that first summer, right? The one who moved. I met a guy named Shiloh. He looked just like the Shiloh we knew, plus however many years. But he didn't remember me and just left. Cove frowned. That's... I don't know. Too bad I missed it. Though you knew him better than I did. That was definitely true. Not only had Cove known Shiloh for a shorter period of time, but he and Shiloh had never quite gotten along. Not that they were enemies either, just kids who were only ever together because of other people they both knew. I wonder what Shiloh's up to these days. I don't have any idea. You didn't say much. Oh, well. That was everything you had on that news item, so you moved on to the next big update. Also, you know the mean old neighbors? The ones who would always yell at us? He cringed, recalling those particular memories back in the day was not pleasant, even for someone as nostalgic as him. Yeah. They're not coming. They didn't rent the condo this summer. Cove's jaw dropped. You didn't blame him. The elderly couple had been an institution as far back as you could remember, long predating Cove's arrival. Even now, as a teenager, you found your neck prickling as you walked by their condo, half expecting a scolding for breathing the wrong way in the vicinity of their vacation home. It was strange to think of that coming to an end. Wow. Cove blinked, clearly struggling with the idea in the same way you had. I didn't see that coming. People being gone, people coming back. It feels like I've missed a lot. This has been a busy summer already. Well, you haven't missed the fireflies. They haven't shown up yet. Well, that's something. And we better not get left behind. There's still stuff to do. You nodded. The two of you headed out and traced the most familiar path you'd ever walked. The trip across the road over to Cove's house. It seemed that no sooner had the night begun than it was already at an end, and the dawn of a new day was soon upon you. The next morning, your belly was full of breakfast, and you were in a pleasant mood. You hoped the rest of the day followed suit. Later, you were meeting up with your friends, Cove, Miranda, and Terry, to go into town. It was all on short notice. That was because everyone was just so excited that Cove was finally back home. Having a nice daydream? You blinked, pushing all your thoughts away and returning to reality. Your mom was watching you with a teasing smile. So, what's on the agenda today? You're meeting up with some people. Well, I hope you and your friends have fun. Don't get into too much trouble. She winked at you. You knew both of your moms wanted you to enjoy every bit of this summer before all the big changes started. I'll try.
That'd be great.
But before you go gallivanting around the town, could you bring the mail in? I'm finishing up putting the dishes away over here. All right. Thanks very much. As soon as you were outside your front door, you couldn't help but see Cove and his dad standing around in the road. They noticed you too.
Hey.
Hey there, Jamie. Cove smiled lightly and waved. When you began making your way over, he added, Hi. You waved at him, you hugged him, you gave him a high five, you gave him a noogie, you ruffled his hair. We're in front of his dad. I'm just gonna wave. Cove couldn't quite meet your gaze, but as you approached, the corners of his mouth pulled into a smile. You noticed Mr. Holden was taking in the scene of you and Cove with a self-satisfied smile. Cove followed your line of sight and shot his dad an unimpressed look. For a moment, Mr. Holden seemed like he had a thought dancing on the tip of his tongue, but he decided to keep it to himself. Good. You do that. So, what are you up to today? As far as I know, nothing too much. Me and Cove are meeting some friends in town later. Sounds like a plan to me. Yawning, Mr. Holden stretched his arms over his head. My boy and I have just been waiting around to see what the new neighbors are like. It was definitely his idea. I don't know how you're not interested in this. It's big news. Besides, it'd only be polite to greet the new folks in town. Maybe it'll be a single dad and his son. You've been here too long if seeing a new person rent the condo is what you consider an exciting development. Yes, I'm dying to see the newcomers. Your response was just a shrug. I don't want to meet them. Well, anyone has to be better than the last tenants. All right, don't curse it. Don't jinx it. One of the first three, I think. Maybe it'll be a single dad and his son. You've been here too long, or I'm dying to see the new guy. I mean, I'm interested. Let's just go with maybe it'll be a single dad and his son. Cove snorted some airy laughter at the suggestion.
Oh?
You think we'll have some competition? For several moments, Mr. Holden was unable to answer. He was still chuckling when he put his hands on his hips and tried to compose himself.
Nah.
Absolutely not. We're the #1 father-son duo in this town, and no one's changing that. Mr. Holden took one more glance at the currently vacant building and sighed dramatically. When he turned back to you and Cove, his whole body seemed deflated. There's no sign of them, and I still need to head over to work soon. Cove gave his dad a few reassuring pats on the back. Okay, I promise to keep an eye out. I can text you if anything happens. Really?
Of course.
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, only until I have to meet up with Terry and Miranda. Would that still work? With a wide grin breaking out on his face, Mr. Holden looked absolutely thrilled to have his nosiness enabled. That works. He moved to firmly place both hands over Cove's shoulders, fixing his child with a firm stare. Son, you are my true ally in this world. Mr. Holden stood up straighter, letting Cove go. He looked reinvigorated. Okay, with that settled, I'll go make some money. That's always been the one thing I do best. Mr. Holden headed off to the garage with a big wave goodbye. Cove smiled the whole time you both watched his dad leave. You really liked Mr. Holden. Mr. Holden was one of your favorite people. Cove's dad was kind of a bother. You had mixed feelings on Mr. Holden. It's fine, he's a likable guy. You had for a long time. As soon as he was out of sight, Cove sighed lightly. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, just not looking forward to waiting. Guess I'll be hanging around the street a while. Good luck. See you later, bye. I'll stick around to see the new neighbor. I can wait with you. Why don't I stay to see the new neighbor and keep you company? I'll stick around to see the new neighbor. Can wait with you. You wouldn't abandon Cove there to wither on the road out of boredom. Really? Of course. course. I like keeping you company, remember? He stared at you a moment, smiling softly and thinking about his response.
Me too.
I like that too. Cove put his hands on your shoulders, gripping you solidly, but not enough to hurt. His eyes fixated on you just as firmly. He was serious. Jamie, you're my true ally in this world. That got a fair amount of chuckles from you. He grinned, the stoicism fading into amusement.
Thank you.
I knew you'd stay for me. You're lucky to have me. It's no problem. I can't help myself. You laughed. You shook your head. You simply shrugged. I knew you'd stay for me. Let's just laugh. It was soft and happy. The smile on his face reached his eyes, and it made you feel electric. And then he let go of you. Cove stepped over to his front porch steps, lazily taking a seat and leaning back on his arms. Our watch begins. Nodding in agreement, you joined Cove on the front porch steps. You both sat there in a comfortable familiarity as you settled in for the waiting game on the new tenants. Waiting game sucks. Let's play Hungry Hippos. Anyway. All right. Now's the time. Now is the time, I feel like. Now's the time to finally tell Cove that the first time we met his dad, that his dad tried to pay us to be friends with Cove. Or at least to hang out. Now is a good time. Is that going to be a possibility? The neighborhood was quiet, and you sighed contentedly, closing your eyes and feeling the light breeze. Eventually, you both perked up at the sound of a car. A taxi followed the noise, turning onto your street. Cove's eyebrows raised at that sight, and he sat up straight on the stoop.
Oh?
This has to be them, right? Yeah, it's gotta be. Now that they were here, you couldn't help but feel just a bit curious. You wondered what kind of person would be living in the neighborhood for the summer. The taxi pulled to a stop, as you expected, in front of the now empty condo. It was on the same side of the street as your house, a few buildings further up. Without getting to his feet, Cove tried leaning and tilting his head to get a view of the passenger door as it opened. The single occupant exited the cab. Huh? You could feel what Cove was in that moment. After the last renters, this new visitor was definitely not exactly what you'd expected. Smooth. It was a young man. Had to be close to your own age. He was dressed fully in an eclectic black, white, and gray outfit. Even his side-swooping hair matched the scheme. He's got like eyes on his shirt. The only other pop of color was from something that couldn't easily be fashioned into submission. A pair of dark brown eyes, which you caught when he looked over at his audience. Hello, folks. Who might you be? We're the neighbors. The smile, already prominent on his face, curled further. It was cocky, but you didn't get the impression it meant something adverse. Hallelujah. You and Cove shared a familiar look with one another, bewildered even further. The color-coordinated man left it there, however, and with a firm click, he shut the door of his ride. Then he turned back to you to retrieve a large, unsurprisingly black, suitcase out of the trunk. Continuing on with his own business, he strolled forward and lightly tapped on the driver's side window with his knuckles, asking for them to roll it down. When it opened, he leaned down and rested his arm on the edge. You assumed he was thanking the driver for getting him there, considering he slipped them a tip during the brief chat. They shook hands, and then he pushed himself up and away from the taxi with both arms, giving the driver room to leave. The taxi pulled away, rolling carefully down the road and out of sight around a corner. The new renter had officially arrived. He left his suitcase on the ground, out of the way of the street, and sauntered over your way with the confidence of someone who had been invited to join. Cove finally stood up to greet this person. You followed suit.
Excellent.
Excellent. I'm Baxter Ward. It's excellent to meet you, neighbors. You were standing on the side he was approaching from. When Baxter got close enough, he offered his hand to you first. You shook it. You offered to low-five him. You held your arms open to offer a hug instead. You kept your distance. I'm not gonna try to hug this dude. Not first thing. I mean, you know, he's good looking and fashionable, but that doesn't mean he's gonna be a good guy. I will shake hands, though. Baxter gripped your hand firmly to give a satisfying shake. Hi, Baxter. I'm Jamie. Hey, Jamie. I am quite keen on getting to know you better this summer. We could be good friends. From your other side, Cove made a sudden sputtering noise. And you are? He lifted his hand out to Cove next. Cove instead crossed his arms to express his rejection of that idea, still eyeing Baxter carefully. I'm Cove. Baxter's whole demeanor lit up for unknown reasons. His eyes shone as he studied Cove a moment.
Really?
Now wait, is that a nickname or your real name? It's just my name. Cove spoke mildly, having given that explanation many times in the past. Sorry, accidentally right-clicked. But it clearly charmed Baxter all the same. He tossed his head to one side with a laugh. Your parents knew exactly what they were doing. I can't imagine a more fitting name for the face I'm seeing. Cove. That's gorgeous.
What?
It's really not. No, I agree. It suits you. Hey, only I get to fluster him. That's a lot, considering you're talking to a stranger, Baxter. You didn't know what to say. No, I agree. It suits you.
Not bad.
This guy. Nice to see someone else knows. The impact might have faded for you living with it this long, but I promise to the onlooker it's a knockout. Cove couldn't face either of you after that. His cheeks were quickly turning bright red with embarrassment. You noticed that Baxter looked apologetic over Cove's increased discomfort. I'm sorry. It wasn't intended to mean more than it did. I like your name, but you don't have to mind that. I'm patently against stepping on anyone's toes. He chuckled to himself. It seemed like there was some extra meaning hidden there in his words, and you noticed that Cove raised an eyebrow, picking up on that too. Baxter didn't even open his eyes to see your faces to know he had some filling to do. He stood up straighter, striking a slight pose with the position of his feet. I'm a ballroom dancer, hence the phrasing. Oh, I don't know much about dancing, but that's pretty cool. It's not hard once you get the basics down. Cove didn't look convinced at all. Baxter took that as a cue to keep talking. Well. He grinned in a way that was rapidly becoming familiar to you. It's rapidly becoming... We met him 5 minutes ago. And this guy is coming off like a villain in a K-drama right now. If either of you are ever looking for a partner, I'm available. Cove frowned at the overt forwardness. Thanks. I'll pass, I think. I'll take you up on that offer sometime. I'd rather not. I could probably show you some moves. You didn't answer the question. Baxter nodded understandingly and let the subject go. After that, there was a lull in conversation, and Cove attempted to fill it.
So...
What made you decide on Sunset Bird? Oh, yes, well, my parents rented a condo, so I had a place to stay while I'm off for a semester from college and not living in the dorms. There's a playful glint in Baxter's eyes as he continued. Honestly, ideally, they wanted to send me somewhere that wasn't too exciting. But lucky for me, they picked the wrong street, considering the two of you live here. Cove was practically reeling over how Baxter found a way to fit comments like that into every single topic thus far. It is kind of a lot. Why do you keep doing that? You don't know us, but you talk like you already do. Cove spoke firm, yet genuinely confused, and Baxter smiled cautiously. I don't feel the need to keep words of praise to myself, and when I say something, I mean it.
See?
Plus, what's the point of spending my off semester alone? The best part of being somewhere new is getting to interact with new people. Am I honestly the first person who's acknowledged you're attractive and intriguing people? True, you're hidden away in a tiny tourist trap, but still. Baxter crossed his arms. After studying your faces for a few more seconds, he decided to continue. Am I only trying to score a hookup or get a romantic fling started by saying those things? No, that isn't the point of speaking well of others. I was raised better than that. Though, would I be fussed if that's what my words led to? Also, no. I am flexible. Not a surprise, I can back off with the lines if you don't like the attention. But I would like to be friends, if we can. Cove wasn't sure how to respond. He glanced at you, and he continued to look at your face when he spoke. Thanks for answering. I'm not interested in any of that with you. Maybe not the friend thing, but the other part. It doesn't bother me. Pay attention to me, flirt with me. Our character is non-binary, demisexual, pan-romantic. So, if I got close to this person, I could feel attracted to them. And I mean, he's a lot. He's a lot, but I like a good flirt. It doesn't have to go anywhere. In fact, I often prefer it if it doesn't go anywhere. But I love flirting for its own sake. I know not everyone does. And that's cool. You know, so. But I like the back and forth, you know. Doesn't bother me. I'd appreciate it if you didn't do that with me. I'm finding it pretty entertaining. You probably annoy a lot of people. You stood there, unsure of how to react. I'm finding it pretty entertaining. Baxter laughed at that. Glad we're working things out. Shifting his weight to his other foot, Baxter tried to move forward. So, since you were both already out here, did my arrival interrupt anything? Definitely not. You smiled and silently agreed. You laughed in a conspiratorial way. You looked away nervously. You told Baxter that you were both waiting to see who was going to move in. I mean, yeah, let's do that. Maybe he'll be interested in Miranda or Terry when they show up. That condo hasn't had a new renter in my entire life. We had to see who was moving in now. Baxter laughed at that, immensely pleased with your response. I'm getting a reputation in this town already. Not bad. Well, If either of you are free, I'd be thrilled to hang out this summer, but we can save the schedule talk for later. I should get my things inside. He gave a small nod of the head and flashed you both a dazzling smile.
Goodbye.
Goodbye for today. Cove simply waved goodbye. Bye, Baxter. See you. Baxter then turned on his heels and strolled back to his suitcase, picking it up and bringing it to his condo. You and Cove were silent as Baxter unlocked the door and disappeared inside the house. With him completely out of the scene, Cove let out a long breath.
Well,
I don't know how I'm going to explain that guy to my dad. You burst into a fit of laughter, trying to imagine the conversation. So, you like it when people say that sort of stuff about people? It's okay to do it? Never mind. At least the job is done. We saw the new neighbor, and now we can go meet up with Terry and Miranda. Yeah, we should get going. You gave Baxter's condo one last glance over your shoulder. You were looking forward to seeing more of him. You thought he was charming. You were not interested in him. You weren't sure how to feel. You thought he gave a pretty bad first impression. You decided he definitely wasn't someone you like. I don't know if I'm interested in him or not. I don't think I'm interested in him. But I do think he's charming in a weird way. I mean, not that weird way, but he's a little overdoing it, but I like his directness. You weren't really sure when, but at some point Baxter won you over. You were curious to get to know him better. I think he won me over when he respected Cove's boundaries. You know, Cove made it clear that he didn't like that kind of attention, and Baxter was like, okay, no problem. All right, come back. So, all right, let's save here. Okay, I need to take a bio break. I shall return. I had to go pick someone up. It's sweaty outside, and the minute it's evening, the minute I walked outside the door, all of the insect life on Earth descended upon me simultaneously, so I kind of had to make a run for my car. So I'm a little sticky around the edges right now. So, anyhow, back we go. Yes, you weren't really sure when, but at some point Baxter won you over. You were curious to get to know him better. I don't think Cove likes that we like him. I'm thinking we can fob him off on one of our friends. Unless he primarily likes boys and mask-leaning people, which is certainly possible with a ballroom dancer. It's not the case with every male ballroom dancer. Laughing quietly, you wondered how Baxter would fit in with the rest of the neighborhood. Not well. Not well, I'm guessing. Turning your attention back to Cove, you pushed all thoughts of Baxter aside. You started making your way toward town. A little while later, you and Cove reached a main street in town. All of a sudden, you stopped walking. What's wrong? I think I heard my phone. You dug your cell phone out and looked at it with a satisfied grin. There was a new message. You opened the new text from Miranda, and all you saw was, "I can see you." Immediately from where you stood, you started swiveling your head around. You couldn't spot Miranda anywhere. She did send you more messages. "Ha ha, I see you looking." "Where are you?" "Ha ha, come on." "Really, Randy?" Hi. What? Yeah. Really, Randy? Oh, I had to pick. Okay. The message was sent and you were back to looking around, scanning for any sign of movement and familiar faces, but they were still invisible. Cove looked at you carefully, raising an eyebrow. Yeah, you need to present the options the way you've presented every other option in the game. You need to format it the same way, because formatting it as separate text messages but still aligned the way that they normally would made me think that I sent all of those. So I'm just like, yeah, I am. Miranda, come on out. You sighed at the ridiculousness. You burst into laughter at her antics. You sent your own joking text. If you want to keep hiding, Cove and I can just go do our own stuff without you, is what you decided on. You smirked, hitting send on that message. Cove looked at you curious, raising an eyebrow. What's happening? Before you could even begin explaining anything to Cove, you both snapped your attention to the yelling from across the street. And there you saw Miranda and Terry coming out from behind the backside wall of the grocery store. They both started waving widely to draw even more attention to themselves. Cove took a step in their direction. He grinned and waited for them to get closer. Laughing and arm in arm, the girls stopped only to look both ways and then rushed across the empty street.
Hi.
Hi! I hope you weren't waiting too long.
Hey, buddies.
Hey, buddies. Hi. Aw, they're cute. Hi. That joke was not funny. I'm amazed. How did you appear out of nowhere like that? Hey, I'm so happy to see you two. I thought you both knew better than to jaywalk. Really? I thought you both knew better than to jaywalk. How did you appear out of nowhere? They started giggling again. Terry glanced at Miranda, wondering what their story should be.
Ooh.
It was magic. Gesturing in a vaguely whimsical manner, Terry went along with the decision. And magicians never reveal their secrets. Ooh. That's fair. Terry then closed the distance between her and Cove and crushed him into a painfully tight hug. You're finally here. It's been so long. What took you? He did his best to eke out a reply with his chest being compressed. Sorry. Eventually, she let him go. Terry looked at him with a beaming smile, but Cove was distracted, rubbing his arms. Standing there, Miranda shifted her weight onto her other hip. She watched Cove patiently, with a bashful smile. Welcome back. Thanks. It finally felt official. Everyone was together in one place. From here, you weren't sure how often you would have another afternoon like this again. They didn't either.
So?
Cove? Terry poked Cove square in the chest. You're gonna have to get me your schedule by this time yesterday.
No way.
Not really possible, Terry, but I can say as soon as I know. So far, work hasn't said anything, but I can tell you I'm busy with orca activities. When Cove wasn't at his part-time job, or pursuing his athletic and academic interests, he volunteered for the Ocean Restoration California affiliation, ORCA. The group focused on cleaning up beaches and removing pollution from the ocean. Cove always loved the sea. Didn't surprise you one bit when he started getting involved with them. It was Cove's activity. You joined Orca too after learning of it. You were an Orca member and introduced Cove to it. Sure. The big smash event for the year is coming right up, isn't it? Yeah, there's not much more to do before then, but I'm kind of looking forward to the fundraising push. Hopefully we can pull it off. If anyone can do it, it's you two. And even if it goes really bad, it'll still look good on a college application at least. That's true. Hey, guess what else? We don't have to stand here to say stuff. Let's go. I would like a meal now. Perking up, Cove nodded in agreement. Yeah, for sure. The four of you headed into town, happily chatting the whole way. The only decision left to make was exactly where to stop and eat. The rest of the afternoon and evening passed by in the blink of an eye. When night fell, it was time to head home, and you parted ways with Miranda and Terry. You and Cove reached your neighborhood without event. It was late enough that your out-of-the-way street was dark and silent. You were walking tiredly after such a long day. You strolled with a skip in your step. You ambled along. Cove was giving you a piggyback ride home. You can amble. With every step, you knew that your fate was being sealed. Your fate were going to be sore well into tomorrow. It was taking a lot of mental focus to keep up and walk alongside Cove. As you peered at his face out of the corner of your eyes, you wondered why he felt so distant to you. He was out of character. For a while, Cove silently stared ahead and left you alone with your own thoughts. It surprised you when you did hear his voice all of a sudden. He still wouldn't look at you. It feels weird coming back to the neighborhood and trying to get into things like they're the same. And they're not. They've changed. They're still changing. Your mouth felt uncomfortably dry all of a sudden. It was true. The things that kept the people you knew together were starting to disappear. Each person had to make their own priorities and their own path now that it wasn't set for them. You thought about your own immediate future. You were still set on that for yourself. You wanted to go to school full-time, to go to school part-time, to work full-time, to work part-time, to focus on time that's not school or work. What am I trying to do here? I mean, if I'm going to go into like marine biology stuff, I need to go to school. You wanted to go to school full-time. And to work full-time, to work part-time. To focus on time that's not school or work, and that was the basics. I guess this? I don't know. For your education, you thought you'd attend a community college, attend a public university, go to a private college, join a trade school, take online classes. I mean, it's public university, right? There's plenty of places in California to go for marine biology that are public universities, I would assume. Why am I getting multiple options here? I'm very confused. If these are or options, I wish that they'd make that more clear. Community college as well, or private college, or no. These options are not clear to me. Or rather, I guess the context isn't clear to me. What trade school would I join? I could also go to community college or a private college. And that was all. For yourself, you wanted to work on self-improvement on your own. Take some time to just relax. No, just relax. That was all. And for that, you wanted to... Oh, for crying out loud. Yeah, I don't like the way this is phrased. It's very confusing. Stay local, go to a different part of the state, go out of state, go abroad, travel around to different places. Travel. It'd all be happening so soon. You'd already applied to schools. You'd already made plans for a trip. You'd started to prepare for what was coming. You hadn't begun to do anything about that yet. Well, you'd have had to apply for schools by now. You'd been open about your situation and everyone knew. You'd only spoken about this with family and those you were close to, like Cove. And you kept all this to yourself, and Cove was the only person who knew. I guess family and Cove? Now you wondered what Cove had in mind. You'd heard him consider some things for his future, but it was never anything that would have counted as a real plan. Making it back home, you both stopped in the middle of the street. Cove sighed. Cove looked at the ground for a moment. His mouth trembled, trying to settle on the right word to say. So, you're planning on relaxing for a while and stuff while traveling? Yeah. Cove closed his eyes and nodded while he composed his thoughts. He looked at you when he lifted his head. I decided on something. Well, kind of. He smiled slightly and rubbed his arm, and then his expression grew more serious. I'm not going to decide on a school or a career. Not this summer. I'm going to stay here, at least in Sunset Bird. I'll probably move out of my dad's place. I'll keep working my job, keep doing my volunteer stuff, and everything else.
I don't know.
Maybe I'll know what I want for myself by fall or next year, or maybe I'll never have a plan. Life will continue on with whatever's happening. I'm not going to crush myself trying to have everything figured out by a timeline that someone else has set. I just can't do it. His brow furrowed and his tone was tense. It was clear how much expectations were weighing on him. I know that's not very exciting, but it's the best I can do right now. He laughed self-derisively, but with the way his face looked, you thought he actually wanted to cry. You smiled. You looked at him deeply. You started crying. You felt annoyed. Let's look at him. Your plan sounds very you. I'll miss you. I wanted you to come with me. Okay. And you couldn't say anything. Now see, again, the way things are phrased, I didn't think the traveling was going to happen right now. Or, had to get fit in before college. I thought it was going to be, kind of some of both, like you go to college and then like next summer travel or travel right after college or, I hadn't pictured it, so I'm just going to not say anything. You could only quietly accept it. He exhaled, releasing some tension in his shoulders. Thanks for hearing me out on this. You knew him well enough to know that Cove wasn't feeling completely better about the way things were. No matter what's happening, I want you to know that you won't ever lose me. I won't really be gone. I'll still be there for you the best I can, whether it's long distance or whatever else. Cove's whole expression softened. His lips pulled into an affectionate smile.
It's okay.
Jamie, you deserve to have everything you want in life. You laughed at his bold declaration. Thank you, Cove. I want you to get everything you want in life. You didn't know how to respond to that. You teared up. You're wonderful. I'd be touched. Cove's declaration had your eyes welling with tears. No matter how many times you wiped your eyes with the back of your hand, your face was wet. Cove looked at you concerned. He took a step closer, and he placed a hand on your shoulders. The warmth from his proximity helped relax you. He spoke to you softly. Wholeheartedly, he meant every word. Things are hard right now. It scares me, but it'll be okay. It'll be more than okay. Now that things are up to us, we can make our lives better than they ever were. You believed him. You appreciated his attempt to put on a brave face. You still felt unsure. You felt better after his reassurance. I appreciate your attempt to put on a brave face. You could tell how hard Cove was trying to keep himself together for you. You hoped that he was right, and things would be okay for both of you. Finally, your eyes stopped overflowing with tears, and you could meet Cove's gaze clearly. You nodded. At that, his expression morphed into a look of careful confidence. Clearly, he was still struggling with this topic, and you wondered what else might be on his mind. This was a start, I think, but it's not over, is it? We'll have to keep talking about it going forward. Yeah. Cove softly reiterated his promise. It'll all be okay. We'll still always be there for each other. Is that good with you? It is. Cool, that's cool. I'll see you tomorrow, Jamie. I'll see you. Night. He pulled you into an unexpected hug. It knocked the breath out of you, yet couldn't have been a more reassuring feeling. You returned his embrace and stayed that way for as long as you could.
Good night.
Night. He finally let go, giving you another smile. Then Cove started walking away, but you remained there, frozen in the middle of the street. You watched him and wondered, how many more times will he be able to say that he'll see you tomorrow? You hoped for countless more times. Finally, you turned toward your own house. You vowed to yourself that you would make the most out of every moment you had this summer. All right. And then summer ended. No. Okay. So let's get through like at least one part, and then like the next 2 episodes will be 2 parts for each, maybe. Depending. That was the longest prologue yet out of all of these. All right. Hang, errands, talks, charity, drive. All right. Let's do the charity function. Like the orca shirt. Cove pushed himself to his feet from where he had been bent down in the sand, stretching out his back and groaning softly. A tired breath slipped past his lips as he wiped his brow, looking out over the shore. It looks great. You stood beside him, joining in the surveying of the sand that almost seemed to sparkle beneath the midday sun. The 2 of you had been out on the beach since sunrise, cleaning up and down the beach, looking for various debris, and the work had paid off. Using a hand to shield your eyes from blinding rays, you glanced across the way where the other volunteers from Orca were gathered. They were easily recognizable by the high-vis vests they wore. It looked as though everyone was about ready to wrap things up for the day. I'm happy to see it in a better state. I'm exhausted. I'm just glad it's almost over. You did great, Cove. I'm happy to see it in a better state. It was pretty sad looking when we got here. The beaches of this town were practically your own personal... The beaches of this town were practically your own personal backyard, and you visited them a lot. It felt good knowing that you were helping to take care of them. Too bad not everybody sees the joy in putting trash where it belongs. Oh well. Cove placed his hands on his hips, a pleased grin pulling at the corners of his mouth as he admired the work you'd both done. You had begun to realize, during your time volunteering for the organization, how seriously Cove took his service. It was easy to see that it was something important to him. You felt equally as invested, and it always... I don't know what is wrong with me this evening. You felt equally as invested, and always gave it your best efforts. You enjoyed the work, but mostly wanted to have a good time. Miranda was right. You volunteered because it was a good reference. You didn't want to be there, but you didn't know how to turn it down. Again, I'm going off the assumption that I'm really into marine biology, so I'm going to say equally as invested. It was important that the ocean you grew up with was protected. It had always been a big part of your life, and you felt that the least you could do was give back to it in some way. Hey, nice work, Jamie. Thanks. It's been a good year so far. It's crazy to think that it's already time to push the big event. You let out a big breath, thinking of the formal dinner that Orca organized every year. Being a completely fundraising-focused event for large donors, it was crucial for the organization's projects in the year to come. You had to be over 18 to attend, so this was your first opportunity to actually see it in person. All you had heard about it so far was that it was a prim and proper occasion, with speeches and everything. You didn't know what else to expect from it, as you weren't a part of the group who planned the evening. Before the big night came around, the volunteers would have to sell the tickets for it, and that's where you'd be helping. I'm so excited to go. I'm nervous about the event. I don't even really want to go. I'm curious about the night. You shrugged. Curious. It might be fun. I've never been to a professional type party. Cove nodded, though he still seemed reluctant. I just don't feel excited about attending a super formal meal with proper etiquette and stuff, you know? He threw his arms out to the side, making a bit of a show at how ridiculous it seemed to him. I've got sand all over my room and only one nice shirt, and I go barefoot pretty much whenever I can. I'm going to be so out of place. Right. I bet you'd rather stay out here. I don't want to have to worry about manners. You can make it work for one night. Doing something that fancy will make it fun. Yep, you'll definitely seem out of place there. You didn't say anything. Okay, I think right, I bet you'd rather stay out here is sort of like echoing back his feelings. Just be like, yep, I hear you, I hear your complaints, but we still need to do it. I bet you'd rather stay out here. I don't want to have to worry about manners. It sounds like we're going to both skip it. We can make it work for one night. Could be a good one. Doing something that fancy will make it fun. It sounds like I'm trying to talk him into it and discounting his feelings. Yep, you'll definitely seem out of place. That's not helpful. Not saying anything's helpful. Also, not helpful. You can make it work for one night. It'll only be a few hours, then it'll all be over and you can go back to the sea. Cove chuckled softly under his breath, smoothing his hair away from his face. I guess you're right. A small beeping noise came from Cove's pant pocket, and he pulled it out and glanced at the screen.
Huh?
Pants alarm's going off, Cove. Better answer it. It's the organizer. It's the organizers. They've sent a text to the group. Time to call it a day here. All right. Ready to head to our next activity? Cove tucked his cell away eagerly, turning to you. Let's head over and drop the trash bags off at the trucks. Then we can drive back and join the ticket team. We've got to be there pretty soon to relieve them. With a stretch of shore this long, the plan was to switch places with the other team, who had been pushing the tickets for the fundraising dinner halfway through. It would be a full day of work, but it was Orca's largest event of the year, and all hands were on deck to make sure it was a success. You raised your hand for a high five. You nudged your shoulder against Cove's. You started pushing Cove on the back to move forward. You ran off. You started to walk. You do the shoulder nudgy thing. He chuckled and nudged you back playfully with his now free hand. You collected the trash bags spread along the way together, heading across the beach to hoist them into the trucks before heading off to the next job. The drive back to your neighborhood and making your way to the shopping street was fairly quick, though Cove stressed a little about being late. Luckily, he was able to find a parking spot nice and close to where you needed to be. You jumped out of the car and quickly went toward where you knew the group would be. Finally reaching the stall that was set up to sell tickets, you stopped for a moment to catch your breath. That was quite the flurry of activity. It would be your job for the rest of the afternoon to help sell tickets for the fundraising dinner, and looking around the street, you saw that there were plenty of potential buyers out today. That would hopefully help to move the tickets along. The stall itself was simple. A portable table with a few plush sea animals as decorations and a banner stuck across the front. There were 2 volunteers who were already packing up and getting ready to head off to the beach. They gave both of you a friendly smile as you arrived. Volunteer 1. Hey Cove, Jamie, how'd things go at the beach?
Not bad.
It was good. Place is looking great. Volunteer 2. We're lucky to get a 2-for-1 when it comes to you guys. Cove cleared his throat awkwardly from beside you, and you noticed his cheeks flushing pink. Come on, we're not that clingy with each other. You laughed it off. That's right, that's us. You felt your own cheeks get hotter. Their teasing rubbed you the wrong way. You shrugged it off. Let's be embarrassed with it. Let's see what happens. You could tell they weren't trying to embarrass you on purpose, but you wish they hadn't said anything at all. The volunteers made room for you and Cove behind the table, while they circled around to the front of it. Thanks for coming in for a shift. We'd better make this quick so we can head off to the next place. Yeah, fine. We're ready for whatever is needed. One of the volunteers handed you a clipboard with all the details needed to sell tickets, while the other tossed a set of keys to Cove, which he caught with ease. Those are for the money box and supply kit. Make sure to keep them on you at all times. Aside from handling the cash for the tickets, there's also a form on the clipboard for the guests to fill in their info. That way we know how many tickets we've sold and who will be attending the event. There's a small script beneath that if you get stuck for what to say. And that's about it. Pretty simple, huh?
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. I think we've got this. Satisfied that you knew what you were doing, the volunteers said their goodbyes and started walking away, leaving you and Cove to manage the stall alone. I hate doing cold sales. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I didn't like it before, but I had a temp job once where we were supposed to make phone calls to try to recruit people for a charity event. And supposedly they were warm leads, meaning that these people had been either contacted directly in advance or they had signed up on a sign-up sheet somewhere, that they were interested and willing to maybe be a part of future events. And they were literally just photocopied phone book pages with, highlights for which people we were meant to call. And the rules were we had to follow a script, word for word, we had to follow a script. And we had to keep calling back until we got a person. I have never been reprimanded so often in my life by strangers in the course of a 2-day period. And they wouldn't give you new pages of new people to call until you had called your leads at least 4 times. That you had gone through the list at least 4 times to try to get everybody on it. And I absolutely hated it. It is the worst temp job I have ever had in my life. Worse than being given a company t-shirt and posed in company photos as if they had a bigger staff than they actually did. Being a body in the photos, essentially being told to commit fraud for my temp agency, to claim that I actually worked at the place where I was contracted to temporarily. It was... Temping can really suck. Sometimes it's fine. I loved the jobs where it's here, sit in this room, here are some files, please put them into filing cabinets in the correct order. I love simple, easy, even though it's boring and repetitive tasks, if you're allowed to have like a Walkman, that's how long ago this was. If you're allowed to have headphones, and listen to music while you're working, I am super happy to have a very defined task with very defined goals and clear, markable progress. That makes me very happy. It didn't pay very much, but I liked those jobs a lot more than ones where I had to be super interactive with people in a phony way. Hated. So I will hate this. The keys jingled in his hand as Cove waved them off before he stuffed them into the pocket of his pants for safekeeping. Bye, have fun. Once the volunteers were out of sight, Cove dropped down into a chair behind the counter with a sigh. We made it here just in time. It's cool we traded places with nothing happening. They might have been late getting to cleanup duty. He leaned back in his seat, getting fully comfortable in the space, and gave you a small smile. You took the other seat. You stayed standing. I bet I need to rest. It was just a simple plastic chair that squeaked when you sat on it, but it gave you a good view of the street. We've got things under control. I was so stressed about getting here. Things could still go wrong. I'm glad this work lets us at least rest in one place. You rubbed at your eyes tiredly. You returned his smile. I'm glad this work lets us at least rest in one place. Yeah, I really needed to get off my feet for 5 seconds. Cove rummaged around the station a little, picking up a stuffed toy orca and holding it up in front of his face. You had to admit that it was pretty cute, with its big, bulging eyes and oversized flippers. Setting it back down on top of the table, Cove moved on to check out the rest of the stall, finding a cooler stashed beneath the table. When he pulled it out and opened the lid, you could see that it was filled with half-melted ice cubes and about half a dozen bottles of water. Grabbing one of the plastic bottles, he unscrewed the cap and took a long drink. You watched the condensation running along the side and onto his fingers.
So?
Do you want one? Cove set his water on his side of the table before pulling out another, holding it toward you. You accepted the water bottle. I've brought my own, thanks. No, I'm not thirsty. Oh, I think we're thirsty. I think we're thirsty. But we just did a beach cleanup. We're probably dying for water. Thanks. After opening it up, you took a drink and let out a satisfied sigh. You hadn't realized how thirsty you had been, and it was always good to stay hydrated. The two of you got settled in easily, and you took the chance to look over the paperwork on the clipboard. Cove joined you, leaning over your shoulder to get a better look. Seems like pretty standard stuff. He muttered, and you nodded quietly. It had general info about the event and the work you needed to do at the stall, as well as the amount of tickets sold thus far and the number remaining. Cove tapped a finger on the counter as he read quietly over the notes, muttering a few things now and then that you didn't fully hear. He seemed content to be there, and you were sure that the afternoon would pass by quickly. When he glanced out toward the crowd and made a small sound, you followed his line of sight to see that a potential supporter was on their way over to the booth. You psyched yourself up. You were feeling anxious. It was time to do customer service. You tried to relax for a bit. This is going to be a pain. You quietly continued checking over the papers. I'm going to psych myself up. I can do it. I can do it. This could be your first ticket sale of the day. You had to give it all you had to make sure the event was a success. Hi, how are you doing today? Time passed as the two of you manned the stall, and as people approached, your sales pitch would either have them asking for a ticket, or two, or heading off and mumbling, maybe next time. All in all, you managed to sell a decent amount of tickets, and you could tell that Cove was happy with the outcome. I wonder if I picked If there was an option, I could have picked where we could have sold like all of the tickets. As the afternoon drifted along, 6 p.m. arrived. Time to pack everything up and head home for the evening. Your work with Orca was far from over, but right now, there was only one thing left to focus on: attending the actual event. Can we go shopping? Shopping, Mata. Shopping. The days continued on in a normal flow, and before long, the night of the Orca fundraising dinner was upon you. Ah, no shopping montage. Boo! It was early evening, and you were in your room getting ready as the minutes ticked closer and closer toward the time you needed to leave. You wanted some privacy, so you had locked yourself away on your own. Liz was helping you pick out an outfit. Cove was on speakerphone. Liz was helping you get ready, while Cove was on speakerphone. I think maybe we should go with the last one so that Liz can help both of us. You are currently in the midst of picking out an outfit, which Liz was helping you with, while Cove gave his input from the phone. Of course, Cove couldn't see any of the items you and Liz were choosing between, but he was trying to help all the same. The event had strict guidelines, and you wouldn't be let in unless you were dressed to code. That meant having to find a truly professional outfit, but one that you were also happy with. You were happy to have the chance to dress fancy. You wanted to be practical about it. You weren't happy about having to dress up. I like dressing fancy. There were a couple of outfits that didn't get nearly as much use as you would have liked, and now is the time to show them off. You smiled as you picked your way through the items, your excitement shining bright.
Fine.
You don't need to get too in your head thinking about the look, but you do need to hurry up and pick something. At this rate, you're going to have a better time picking out your outfit than at the party itself. But whatever you go with, it'll be great. Oh, aren't you helpful, Liz? Don't push me, Liz. Thanks for talking it through with me, Cove. I never thought I'd see the day when Cove Holden would encourage me to wear something formal. You laughed a little. You shook your head. Oh, aren't you helpful, Liz? You rolled your eyes sarcastically and pouted. You knew you needed to make a decision and didn't appreciate the way Liz was pushing you towards it. Sorry, I'm only trying to get this done. Taking a deep breath to refocus yourself, you looked over at the options one more time. It was time to decide on an outfit, and quick. You chose a dress. You chose a button-down shirt and pants. You chose a blouse and pants. You chose a button-down shirt and a skirt. You chose a blouse and a skirt. All right, so we're non-binary, or we have been playing it as assigned female at birth, but non-binary gender. So I could go in any direction. I feel like a button-down shirt and pants. I feel like it should be a suit if we're gonna... I was hoping for a suit. You chose a blouse and pants. You chose a button-down shirt and a skirt. Like, blouse and pants might not be seen as... And button-down and pants might not be seen as formal enough. Button-down shirt and a skirt. I've seen that. I'm not impressed with that look on anybody. Of any gender. Blouse and a skirt. I'm gonna go with a dress. I'm gonna go with a dress. Should I go with a dress? Should I go with a button-down shirt and pants? I want to. Why isn't it a suit? I want a suit, like a nice, colorful suit, like a bright, like emerald green or like a teal suit. Doesn't have to have a tie, but have like a suit jacket with a button down and pants. Can we wear a dress and like butch it up a little bit? I'm taking too long for this. I know I'm overthinking it. I know I am. I know I'm overthinking. Blouse and a skirt actually seems like more more girly, more femmy than an actual dress. Maybe we can find like a suit dress. Picking a dress. Liz nodded in approval, clapping her hands together, satisfied.
Good.
Finally, we're making some progress. That sounds like it'd be totally fine. I'm wearing just a shirt with buttons and slacks, personally. Standing in front of your mirror, you quietly assessed your outfit. You need a jacket. Put a blazer on, Cove. You thought about adding an accessory or two. You liked your outfit as it was. Do we have can we add it like a tie? Or a hat? How about a hat? Accessory or two? Needed a little something extra to finish it all off. Rummaging through the rest of your wardrobe, you picked out what you needed to complete your outfit. A necklace, a bracelet, a watch, a belt, a ring, a pair of earrings, an anklet, a hat, a button vest, a tie, a shawl. See, if I'd known we were going to get a button vest, I'd have worn the shirt and pants. I should have saved before I took these options. It's too bad I can't go back a step. Let's say a watch. Grabbing your watch from your bedside table, you fastened it around your wrist and quickly checked the time. It was almost time to go. Button vest. It was a formal event, after all, and you couldn't think of a better time to wear it. A button vest and a tie over a dress? Anklet. You had to quickly remove your shoes to slip on the anklet before stepping back into them again. Go with the vest and tie over a dress. Hopefully it all works together. Liz took the item from your hand and helped tie it around your neck correctly. You stepped in front of the mirror when she was done, nodding in approval. And that was everything. And with that, you decided to apply makeup. You asked Liz if she could put on makeup for you. You were ready to go. I'm gonna go without makeup. Finally, you were dressed. It had all come together. Okay, just gotta change my shirt and then I'll be at the car. See you in a minute. When you looked at Liz again, she had a goofy smile pulling at her lips. You look very nice, Jamie. Thank you. You twisted around in your outfit excitedly. I do look good, don't I? Now you're talking like our moms. You blushed and smiled at the compliment. I do look good, don't I? You admired your reflection in the mirror, happy with the outfit you'd picked out. Liz wiped a pretend tear away with her finger, sniffing dramatically. Oh, precious Jamie, you're really all grown up. It happened in the blink of an eye when I wasn't even looking. She chuckled to herself, nudging you toward the door. All right, time to get downstairs. Your special boy awaits. You carefully headed down the stairs and into the living room, where your moms were waiting for your appearance. As you entered, they both stood from the couch and came over to you, smiling broadly. You look so wonderful, Jamie.
Nice.
And very mature, too.
Mm-hmm.
I know, right? They continued to coo and fuss over you until you managed to brush them off. Ma took Mom by the arm and held her close, the two of them admiring you proudly. I guess I didn't go to prom, huh? You enjoyed the attention. Thank you. You sighed dramatically. I already got this from Liz. You wondered why they were making such a big deal. Yeah, why are you making such a big deal? Liz came over to you and smirked, as if she was reading the very thoughts in your head. You'll have to get used to it one day, Jamie. You're the baby of the family after all. Ma came in to give you one last hug, and before you knew it, another pair of arms was wrapped around you, and then a third. Both Mom and Liz giggled as they hugged you tight. We hope you have so much fun tonight.
Have fun.
We won't wait up for you. Stay out as long as you need. You're old enough now. With a last wave goodbye, you left your family and approached the front door. It was time. Stepping out into the night, you closed the door behind you gently and looked out across the street. Cove was standing there in the street, His eyes met yours immediately, as if he had been watching your house for the moment you would come out. He smiled bashfully. Hey, Jamie. Hey, I hope you're ready to do this. You took the chance to check over his outfit as he walked across the way to meet you. He looks nice. I'm glad he went with a colored shirt. I was worried it was going to be like a plain white button-down. It was formal for sure, though it didn't feel overly posh. It made sense for him and was honestly a sight for sore eyes. He was always beautiful to you. He looked you over as well, a subtle blush creeping over his face as he quickly cleared his throat and averted his gaze. You seem to be struggling to find something to say, rubbing at the exposed part of his arm awkwardly. Thank you for coming with me, and for dressing really nicely for this. Your outfit, it's good. Better than good, really. Great, I guess? Something else? So yeah. His gaze traveled downward to take in your full form, and he suddenly froze, his eyes widening at the very bottom of it. You were confused by the reaction. Was it your shoes, or... He gave you no answers, simply turning his very red face away from you. You wished you knew what had done it, but you could be grateful at least something about your look had. Thank you. You felt shy over it. Your look is very nice, too. You're so hot right now, you said flirtatiously. You shrugged. Your look is very nice, too. You glanced over him from head to toe, noting that his shirt, pants, and shoes were all shiny and new. Very nice indeed. He ducked his head a little to hide his expression, but you didn't need to see it to know he was pleased you had said so. Thanks. Then he shook his head, glanced back toward the garage, and throwing a thumb over his shoulder, spoke.
Come on.
We should probably get going. Wouldn't want to be late to such a grown-up event, right? Yeah, let's go. You headed over to Cove's car together, hopping in and strapping on your seatbelts. You were on your way. The event was being held at a place you had never been to before. You brought up the location on your phone to help Cove navigate there. It took some time to find the right address, and once there, you were met with the task of finding a parking spot. Though you were on time, it seemed like everyone else had already showed up and claimed the spaces. Eventually, you found a suitable place before realizing that it required payment. Cove covered the amount, taking the ticket from the machine and leaving it on the dashboard of the car. Can't be that expensive. If you're at a fundraiser, I would imagine. Despite the small holdup, you managed to ultimately make it to the event and confirm you were on the guest list before being shown into the dining area. Oh, I thought it would be like volunteering here. Cove whistled low as he looked around, taking in the extravagance of the room. Chandeliers hung from the ceiling, and the entire place was decked out with beautiful oceanic displays. You were stunned yourself. It was extremely high class, even more so than you had already expected. It's so nice. This is the best looking event I've ever been to. It's way too frilly for me. It's so overdone. Could be worse. You didn't comment. I'm gonna say, could be worse. Cove shook his head at you and chuckled softly. From the look in his eyes, you could tell that he was enjoying the place. The sound of your names being called out echoed over the din in the room. When you looked around, you recognized a couple of the organization leaders looking your way. They approached you both in greeting, giving you a welcoming smile and a hello. Cove, Jamie, glad to see you could make it, especially after all the hard work you've done to help make this night happen.
Of course.
Oh, definitely, I wasn't going to miss it. Hi. You say that as if we had a choice, you joked. I wouldn't miss it either. Hello, I am thrilled to have made it. You gave a soft nod. I was going, I wouldn't miss it either. This is our big night. Of course we had to see what we were working toward. Well, thank you for being a part of the team. You're always welcome to help us out with activities whenever they come up. Thank you. Cove shrugged then, eyes darting around the place with an awkward look.
So,
I guess we should talk to more people. There isn't much else to do at an event like this. You found your way into groups of people who were standing around chatting while some light music played in the background. Servers with large silver trays were gliding between the guests, offering drinks and canapes. Cove was clearly hesitant to actually approach the people, but was able to respond when various people greeted him first. You were enjoying talking to so many different people, both guests and members of the organization alike, and found yourself enjoying the company. The sound of a microphone crackling came from the podium at the other end of the room. Someone who you assumed must be the host for the evening was asking everyone to sit down in preparation for the meal and speeches. You and Cove looked for your table, finding it easily enough by the little name cards that were placed delicately beside the napkins. A few others joined you at the table, though they weren't anyone that you recognized. The host was still speaking as people were settling, starting off the speeches by giving a welcome to everyone attending. She went on to provide some more information about Orca, which you supposed was for the guests who weren't a part of the organization, and the purpose of the fundraiser tonight. Orca's goals, as she explained it, were to aid in the conservation and restoration of oceans and beaches. There were many people who had helped to make the group as successful as it was. When she read off a list of several volunteers who worked on making the event happen, Cove's name was one of the first to come up. His cheeks flushed with shy pride at that. Your name then came up a little further down the list. You were smiling from ear to ear at the mention. As she continued on to thank the large donors for the event, you checked over at Cove. He was still grinning happily to himself and tapping his fingers over the tops of his knees, pretty pleased to have been mentioned by name. You laughed quietly at his reaction. You rolled your eyes. You were excited for him. You could relate to that feeling. You tried to keep focused on the speech. Let's be excited for him. Although we probably are laughing a little bit at his reaction. He had worked so hard to make this event happen, it was the least that he deserved. While the host continued speaking, multiple servers dressed in black were setting the first course of the menu in front of guests. One of the servers set down a plate in front of you, and you thanked them quietly before looking over the dish with interest. You recognized the dish as a simple Caesar salad. The host quickly wrapped up the end of her speech, thanking everyone once more before inviting you all to begin your meal. Anyone who had included a special dietary note when signing up for the event received a vegan or vegetarian version, and there were also small baskets of bread set around the table. You ate both the salad and the bread. You just ate the salad. You just ate some of the bread. You didn't eat any of it. I suppose if we were vegan, we wouldn't eat any of it because Caesar dressing has both dairy and anchovy in it. Or it often has anchovy in it. Not that picky eater. We'll nibble a little bit at the salad. Cove wolfed down his salad before munching into a breadstick, quickly devouring that as well. I hope the next part comes out soon and is bigger. You could hear him mumbling to himself as he reached over for another piece of bread. He glanced around the table and you followed his line of sight with curiosity, noting that everyone else was still eating the salad. Stopping his hand mid-air, he quickly pulled back and rested it on his lap without taking another breadstick after all. It was clear that he was starting to feel unsure of himself, and he looked a little out of place here. He folded his arms and turned away from them to you. Hey, did you like the salad? It was really good. It was too small. It was all right. It was pretty bad. You simply shrugged. It was all right. I've had better. His gaze remained purposely tunneled on you, as if he was trying not to even think about what the rest of the table might be doing. You gave Cove a pat on the hand. You made silly faces at the other guests while they weren't looking. You picked up a breadstick and gave it to Cove. You discreetly flipped the other guests off. You sat there quietly, feeling uncomfortable yourself. Here, have a breadstick. It's okay. Oh, thank you. Cove spoke gently as he took the bread from your hand, looking choked up by your reassurance. He munched away on it happily, seeming much more at ease. It wasn't much longer until the main course was arriving, and the various chicken, steak, and veggie dishes were being served throughout the room. An array of scents wafted through the room, making your mouth water. You had chosen the chicken. You had chosen the steak. You went with the vegan meal. You went with the vegetarian meal. And I went with the chicken. A plate of perfectly roasted chicken and vegetables was set in front of you with a delectable pale gravy. I don't love gravy, though. Cove had gone for the steak, and once he started to dig in, he was completely absorbed by his meal. All right, so Cove will eat anything. You're going to choke if you keep inhaling your food like that. You kicked him under the table teasingly. You flicked something at him while he was off guard. You focused on your own food. I'm just going to focus on my own food here. It was going to be a full evening, so you wanted to try eating something while you could. Is it? What's going to happen? Dinner eventually ended, and last of all was dessert, a lemon sorbet that had been partially dyed blue. The mix of white with bold streaks of blue made the little scoop look like a ball of roaring ocean waves. The effect was very pretty, but the serving size was small. Perhaps it was the price to pay for artistry. You turned to Cove to find him pouting a little at the size of it. Yeah, I remember being surprised the first time I saw sorbet at the end of the meal. It's not really intended to be a full dessert. It's intended just as a palate cleanser. It's like a little something sweet at the end of the meal that sort of makes your mouth feel refreshed, freshens your breath a little bit sometimes, depending on what they're serving. You know, just a little something, and it's meant to not be too heavy. That's why they have, like a fruit sorbet rather than a big scoop of chocolate ice cream or slice of chocolate cake or something. You turned to Cove to find him pouting a little at the size of it. Digging into the dessert, it took him only a few bites to polish it off. Again, the other people around the table had barely even begun eating. An unimpressed air settled over him as he sat back in his chair, sipping at his water unhappily. You should appreciate what you got. You laughed at his moping. You are such a big baby. We can get more dessert later. You cleared your throat. We can get more dessert later. You gave him an encouraging smile. He looked up at you sheepishly, embarrassed to have been caught sulking over such a thing. He fumbled for a defense. It was just really good, that's all. Now it's gone. But I'm okay. With a slight grin, he shrugged to show that he was really fine. Would you like a bite of mine? Do you want my dessert? All right, Cove. Would you like a bite of mine? You scooped up a spoonful of your sorbet and offered it to him, holding a hand beneath it to avoid any drips. His eyes widened as he eyed the dessert hungrily, surprised by the offer. Recovering quickly, he leaned forward over the table, lifting out of the chair a little as he ate the treat from your spoon. As he sat back, humming happily with his mouth full, you couldn't help but smile at the sight. Cove swallowed the faux ocean and let out a satisfied sigh. even though it wasn't that much more. The simple fact that he had gotten more hit the spot.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jamie. You're welcome. You were pleased to see he was perkier, and you went back to eating the rest of your dessert. Another person from Orca got up on stage to make a speech as everyone was nearing the end of their meal. They spoke mostly about the individual projects that the organization was working on and their plans for the near future, as well as encouraging anyone who was interested to consider volunteering. Cove bent forward over the table with his chin balanced on a hand, listening attentively to the words. As they came to a conclusion and everyone gave them a round of applause, Cove caught your eye and smiled. You wondered what would happen now. And then the lights dimmed. A couple of spotlights came on, projecting a water light effect around the room. The gusts gushed over the ambiance, and you looked around with wide eyes at the ripples on the walls. The DJ that had previously been playing some soft mood music in the background announced that the floor was open for dancing, slowly turning the volume up so it drifted through the space. When you glanced at Cove, his eyebrows had shot up, and he mumbled quietly.
Huh.
I didn't know there would be dancing. I guess it makes sense now that I think about it. He gave an awkward laugh as you both watched as people rose from their seats. It was clear now that many of the donors were couples. I'll have to look up who the artist is for this, because I really like the adding the rippling light effect to Cove's shirt. And his face a little bit, actually. It's a really nice detail. A small crowd had started to form on the dance floor, and the DJ played a romantic song to get everyone started off. Cove let his gaze float over the small sea of guests, and he seemed lost in thought. A serious expression had settled on his face, making his eyebrows dip. Slowly, he turned to you, though there was something cautious in his approach. Would you want to dance with me? Would I? I was just going to ask you the same thing. I would love to. His face lit up. You could tell even beneath the dim light. He nodded firmly as he rose from his seat, though you noticed his hands shaking at his sides. We walked out onto the floor together, hesitating a little when you turned and stood face to face. Cove had a hard time meeting your eyes, but he lifted a hand for you to take, unsure of what else he was meant to do. You accepted his hand easily and gave him an encouraging smile. It took some doing, but amidst your nervous laughter, you managed to find a comfortable enough position and set a rhythm to the music. It was quite nice after that. Every time your eyes met Cove's, he would look away quickly, but he seemed to be enjoying the dance nonetheless. Eventually, he felt comfortable enough to speak. A lot has happened, huh? You nodded faintly. You weren't sure if he meant just today, this summer, or your entire time knowing each other. But it didn't really matter. It was true either way. Thinking back on the years that you and Cove had been neighbors, it was difficult to even try to reflect on it all at once.
I'm so glad.
I'm glad we ended up here. He gave you a soft look, and you beamed, knowing that could also mean many things. But from his tone, you were certain he didn't only mean here, at this event. It was more than that. There's nowhere else I'd rather be. So am I. I think we have to tell your dad thanks. You couldn't even speak. You chuckled happily at the two of you and the long adventure you'd been on. Oh, should we go for it? Should we go for the ultra romantic option? Let's save. Should we go for the there's nowhere else I'd rather be? What did he say exactly? Oh. A lot has happened. glad we ended up here. Oh, I'm glad we ended up here. There's nowhere else I'd rather be. The party eventually started to wind down, and at last it came to an end. We're not getting a reaction from that? Why offer that as an option? When the main lights turned on, you blinked against the brightness of them, making sure you still had Cove in your sights. One final speaker came up to the podium on the stage, thanking all the guests for coming and wishing everyone a good night. It was bittersweet to see it come to a close. Your time with Cove here was precious. At least the memories could be brought with you. Giving the space one more look, you walked together with Cove out to the parking lot. The other guests were doing the same, so you got stuck in a bit of a crowd. Though Cove was so tall you could always see him, and it was easy enough to not get separated. The parking lot itself was quite big, and even more noticeable now with fewer cars blocking the view. It took a little while to actually locate Cove's car across its expanse. Eventually you found it, and the two of you bundled inside the vehicle and buckled up. The trip home was quiet, as you both silently reflected back on the experience. The event had been the biggest night of the year for Orca, and now it was all over, just like that. Outside your window, the surroundings soon became familiar, and you found yourselves back in your neighborhood. Cove pulled the car into his driveway and put it in park before letting out a relieved breath. Home, sweet home. Yeah. After climbing out of the car, you walked slowly down to the road, Cove coming over to stand beside you. You stopped in the middle of the street, right between your house and his, and turned to him, finding him in the process of opening his mouth to speak. Strangely, he clamped his lips together, as though he had suddenly thought better of it. You also stayed silent. That was quite a night. Good night, Cove. Thank you for taking me tonight. This is kind of awkward. Should we stay silent and wait him out? Or say thank you for taking me tonight? So I think one of those will get a response. Like, staying silent is more open-ended. Thank you for taking me tonight is just like, oh yeah, wonderful times had by all. See ya, bye! It's polite. Thanks for coming with me. You stepped in for a hug. You ruffled his hair playfully. You gave him a friendly nudge. You patted him on the arm. You waved goodbye. I'm thinking hug or hair ruffle. But his parents do that, so let's go for hug. You went forward and wrapped your arms around him, and he returned the gesture, squeezing tight.
Night.
Night, Jamie. With a last wispy smile. Wispy. Do you mean wistful? He left toward his front door. Figuring you shouldn't linger in the street for much longer, you crossed the remainder of the road and did the same. No, we should walk down to the beach. When you reached your house, you pulled out your keys and stuck them in the door, trying your best to be silent about it. Opening the door a crack, you turned back and looked at Cove from over your shoulder. Your eyebrows lifted in surprise to see he was doing the same, holding his front door open, but waiting for you to go inside before he did. You shared an amused smile before you both stepped into your own houses, locking the door behind you. It was quite late, so everyone else was already asleep. As quiet as a mouse, you tiptoed up to your bedroom and changed out of your formal clothes into your pajamas. Now that you were finally home, you were exhausted. You brushed your teeth and got ready for bed in darkness, before crawling under the covers and letting out a heavy breath. It was still strange to think about how that was it. The build-up to the event had felt like so much. Now it was completely behind you. Your mind was busy with rapid yet muddled thoughts as you faded closer and closer to sleep. As unconsciousness crept up on you, you felt more content. It was a big deal, but there would be more in the future. You could accept what it had been, and you could dream about what you'd get to experience next. And then you were taken away from dreams right back into reality by a sound. Is he at the window? Your eyebrows pinched together, fully unprepared to be part of the waking world again. The day was over, and it had been an eventful one. But you heard another noise. It was a tapping. Your eyes flew open. The window. There was a tapping that came from your window. Cove Holden. You slowly forced yourself to get up. You went over to let the guy in. You rushed over to him. I'm not going to rush over. I'm going to trip over my telescope. You extricated yourself from your bed, yawning. You stretched your arms and made your way to the window. There was another tap right before you arrived. When you pulled it wide open, Cove was indeed there. You had not been surprised to find Cove awkwardly crouched on your window ledge. However, you were taken aback to see that he was a little overdressed. Cove hadn't changed out of his formal clothes. You also noticed that he was perched clumsily. You didn't know if it was because he was trying to keep his fancy clothes clean or if he felt weird about something. His body was too stiff and awkward. Cove smiled sheepishly. Hi, Jamie. Hi. Cove, why are you here? How come you're dressed like that? It's nice to see you, Romeo. If you looked at a clock, it's too late for this. You remained silent. Let's just go with hi. You moved aside and let him climb inside. He cautiously stepped down by stretching his legs over. Strangely, he didn't use his hands for support. It was clear to you now he was holding something. When he was safely on his feet, he briefly checked out his clothes, twisting around to see the back of his pants. He caught you looking and shrugged. I did go home after the event, but I knew I wasn't going to be able to settle down, so I just walked back out. I needed fresh air and time away from everything. He paused for a moment and raised his clasped together hands where you could see them. But then something happened and, well, so I have something I want to show you. Cove grinned like a child and gently unfurled his fingers. Not being able to keep you in suspense for even a minute is a firefly, isn't it? It's just like that first time. Yep. Carefully sitting inside was a tiny yellow light. It blinked off and then on again. A firefly. Delicately, he moved his hand closer so you could see the creature better. They're back. He closed his eyes, his smile now faintly illuminated by his insect companion. Honestly, I didn't think I'd see them this year. I don't know why. It's just, they were kind of late, and I guess I've been worrying about a lot of stuff lately. You could tell that the firefly genuinely lifted his spirits. He seemed at peace, and he wanted to share that with you. The fact that his first thought after discovering the fireflies was to come over and celebrate the joy with you made you suddenly feel very cherished. Cove opened his eyes, but he looked away, not meeting yours.
It's nice.
It's really nice, I think. Even if the fireflies disappear for a while, it doesn't mean they're really gone. They'll come back. I can see them again. You smiled. Technically, fireflies aren't even gone. They're just eggs and larvae. You waited for him to continue. Let's wait him out. Cove looked at your face, his smile now fragile. It makes me think about the two of us. We're together, then we say goodbye, and then we're together again. Day after day, year after year, and even if our time apart gets longer, that doesn't make it forever. Jamie, I'll always be there whenever you want to see me. You wanted to be with him. There was nothing else you wanted then, and he needed to know. He quietly said his name. Cove, I'll always be there for you too. Come on, Cove, you're being sappy. Thank you. You're the best. You're a crazy person. You couldn't say a word. I'll always be there for you too. Or you're the best, I think will steer things in a more romantic direction. Always be there for you too. You beamed at him, you hugged him, you ruffled his hair, you teared up, you stood stock still, stunned. I mean, like, what I'm picturing in my head would, like, look good on TV, but I don't know if that would work in real life. But of course, I also don't know if this story's been written to be as real as possible. Like, I think if I stand there just kind of stunned, maybe that'll, give him the opening to say something or do something. But, hugging him gives him an opening, beaming at him. It's like, seems too goofy. He gets worried when we cry. I wonder if he might get worried if we're not responsive. Thinking either hugging or standing still. I guess hugging is less open to misinterpretation. You stepped closer and grabbed Cove into a hug. He made a squeaking sound as he tried to move his hands out of the way, but then laughed when the firefly flew off. He didn't seem to mind the bug's escape too much. Cove chuckled shyly and then hugged you back. His arms wrapped around you tightly, reaffirming that he'd always be there for you. Cove looked at you, affection plain in his face. Hey, do you want to go out to the hill? The fireflies are still there. Yeah, let's go. You nodded yes. You shook your head no. Maybe another night. It's too late. I'm tired. No, let's go. Let's go. Cove brightened. He was practically bouncing at the thought of a secret excursion before he suddenly became bashful. So how should we leave? We could just try the door. We don't have to do the window thing, but maybe that'd bother your family? You both chuckled at how awkward it would be if your moms, or worse, Liz, saw you going on a midnight firefly catching trip. You'd be sure to avoid that. But you wanted to use the front door. You could leave from your window. We're going to have some sort of misadventure if we go out the window. We're going to bump it. Like, our moms won't care if we go out, but let's try leaving from the window. Let's go through the window. Cove nodded in understanding. You grabbed some shoes and readied yourself for an adventure. You were glad that there was no way you'd run into another soul outside. Cove would be way overdressed, and you were still in your jammies. You let Cove go first. He stepped back onto the ledge as you carefully followed. He shuffled along, and soon you reached the garage. You planned to use the fence from there to reach the ground. Cove climbed down to the fence. He wobbled once, but he made it without an issue. He leaned against the fence and projected hushed words up to where you were waiting.
Are you okay?
Do you want help? You nodded yes. You shook your head no. Yes, please. You got to the edge and let Cove spot your descent. He grabbed you about halfway down and brought you to rest firmly on the ground. Cove gave you an encouraging smile. Neither of you risked speaking yet. He briskly snuck behind the house and up to the old white poppy hill. And Cove was right. The entire hill was lit up, insects twinkling here and there with their pale yellow light. Cove let out a contented sigh, finally able to relax in full. He strode further up the hill to better enjoy the view. You walked along as well, letting yourself be surrounded by the twinkling display. Then, without warning, Cove plopped onto his back. He paid no mind to smacking his formal attire in the grass. He put an arm under his head and stretched the rest of his limbs out. He was clearly getting quite comfortable in the dirt there. You kept standing. You sat down. You laid down in the grass. We'll lie down in the grass too. You sat down first and then fell back. You could see the stars when you looked up at the night sky. Wonder if Dad will be mad about the grass stains. He tugged at the collar of his shirt. He didn't sound concerned, just idly curious. Maybe you should figure out how to clean it before he finds out. His smile bent a little, and it went silent between you. The only sounds were the rustling of bugs and the breeze, and the faraway crashes of waves on the sea. You continued watching fireflies. You wanted to catch some fireflies. You asked Cove if he wanted to catch fireflies. You challenged him to a rolling race down the hill. You asked Cove to dance with you. Let's do the call back to the childhood thing. Because he doesn't have the cast on now. Challenge him to a rolling race down the hill. Up for a race? We could see who can roll down the hill faster. Cove chuckled and crossed his knees casually. How would we even tell who won? We'd both be rolling. We could shout it. Or maybe just do a quick check for the other as soon as we reach the bottom. He tilted his head toward you and uncrossed his legs. Well, I am already in position. Let's do it. With a smile, you wondered if he had a disadvantage in his formal wear. Then again, it wasn't like pajamas were made for rolling either. And even though you were already on the ground, you twisted the way you were settled to be more prepared. Then you stared each other down. It was almost time. This was serious business.
Right.
You know the rules. On the count of 3. Nodding, you tucked your limbs in tight and prepared yourself. 1, 2, 3. Go! You hurled your body sideways, and you could only imagine Cove was doing the same. You were rolling, and then the hill was suddenly over. It felt like a much shorter trip than it used to. You stuck your dizzied head into the air and locked eyes with Cove. He was down there already as well. Both of you were breathing heavily with satisfied expressions creeping onto your faces. I made it down first. You won. Looks like we tied. Did you see who won? I didn't. You stayed silent. I'm gonna stay silent. Cove looked amused. Cove looked amused and unsuccessfully hid a laugh behind a hand. That was a tie. You couldn't argue with that. Cove dropped back to his side and rolled the rest of the way over to you. You couldn't stop yourself from laughing and laid down next to him when he arrived. The hour grew late, and the fireflies mostly dispersed, until only a few stragglers remained. Then even they blinked out of sight, leaving you alone with Cove and your thoughts. It felt as though this was a night that would never end. But you knew it would have to, all too soon. You were only grateful to have been a part of it. These were moments to treasure, and you already knew you'd be remembering them for a very long time. Come on, Cove. Eesh. Get it together. Get it together. Is he still... maybe he's still like super ace. And this is how it would be if we had decided this was going to be our romantic relationship. And then summer ended. No, we're gonna we'll save here. Save here. Okay. So I'm gonna call it. As you can hear, my voice is kind of crackling at this point. It's been like 3 hours, so makes sense. I'll have to be editing this for a while tomorrow night. And then, well, we got four more chapters, four more moments. Hang, errands, talk, and drive. I think we should save talks for last. So, well, we'll find out. We'll do at least 2 more next time, depending on how long they are. And then there's going to be an epilogue after those are done. So who knows? Who knows? I was going to alternate other things with this game, but it's much longer than I anticipated. So if you're still hanging with me, thanks for being here the whole time. And I will see you next time.